OTB AM with Gillette Labs. Get the ultimate shave or your money back. Neon Night Edition available now.
Half past seven, you're welcome along to OTB AM. It's Tuesday, it's not Friday, but it's Adrian here and it's Shane over there, and between both of us, it's Kenny Cunningham. Good morning, Kenny Cunningham. How are you doing?
Yeah, all good, lads. All good.
You've just too long. Literally
too long.
Very second been given out about the lack of provision of croissants.
Croissant.
Yeah. Plenty of Weetabix around the place, but
I feel
no
great.
croissants.
Kenny was dissing me Weetabix this morning. I have to
Wouldn't
say,
be a go-to for me now either, I must admit.
Not even a healthy option, really.
It's probably the healthiest.
Have you looked at the box? Have you looked at the ingredients?
No,
Have you looked at the small print?
I'm going by reputation alone, to be honest.
It's probably the healthiest
In
of those
yourself.
easy breakfasts. Do you know what I mean? Your
low bar,
your
though.
Cocoa Pops,
It's a low
your
bar,
Frosties,
Adrian.
your
It's a
cornflakes.
slow energy burn, isn't it? A bit like porridge.
Yeah, you want a bit of flaxseed or something, a few seeds on it, Shane. That'd be the thing that'd bring
fruit,
it out.
bit
You
of
know? But
strawberry.
it's hard. You see, it's hard to get porridge going or something that's
Never
halfway
been into
healthy.
the porridge.
Have you not?
Never been into
even when
the
you were
porridge.
playing, because that would have been a good source
Would have
of energy.
Yeah. No, it would have been. No, never in. Remember Ready Break growing up over here?
Yeah.
Powdery stuff. That
Powder,
powdery stuff.
It's a kid's version of porridge, basically. I think.
I used to eat ready break
Victorian
cold.
times, innit? Ready Break. You know, Ready Break.
Used to
You
have
used
it
to feel
cold.
sorry for people. You used to feel sorry for kids who had Ready Break. You'd say, bless them.
What's your problem with porridge?
Ready Break for breakfast.
What's your problem with
Porridge
porridge?
was high end.
Was
Porridge
it?
was high end. I think so. Compared to Ready Break.
You get a few cheap
Porridge is cheap as
brands
chips.
now. Yeah.
It's cheap as
Chips
cereal.
aren't cheap. I
Cheap
tell
as-
you that. How
cheap
much are
as
chips
cereal,
in your takeaway?
Well, you would know,
Inflation.
you would know more about.
£3.60.
You would know more about.
£3.60 for a
like,
large
bag of
bag.
chips.
I said to myself coming in this morning, Kenny's in, and like he's always talking about food, and we love chatting about food, but we're not going to do that this
I'm
morning.
led that way.
We didn't even
I'm
plan
led
to
down
talk
that
about
path.
it.
Yeah.
Well, you brought the Weetabix up, Kenny, I have to say.
What would you
brought it
have
up.
for breakfast? Having said that, here we are. What would you have for breakfast?
No, I'm not bad actually. A bit of fruit. I wouldn't eat a lot early on in the day. Maybe a little bit of fruit. Banana. I've been cramping. Don't want to get too late, but cramping a lot of late. So somebody said banana.
All right,
Simple,
okay.
Simple solution.
Yeah,
Banana.
yeah. Again.
Potassium, seemingly.
Tea.
Potassium. That's a given. That's
So
a
a bit of
well known.
fruit.
Did you know that
I did
potassium?
not
Yeah,
know that.
it's good for you.
Anti-cramping. Method or
There we go.
foods. Yeah, there you go.
Chemical symbol is K for potassium. Just for
Cup of
anyone
tea, cup of coffee.
I will have not early in the morning. No,
Right.
that's during the day. That's a little treat if I've been good. But normally, now I've got to, physically you've got we're out running and doing a few bits. Then that's a little treat early afternoon.
For a man
Coffee
who
and cake.
looks to be as fit as a butcher's dog, anytime I hear you talking about food, it doesn't appear it's all sort of
Sweet
from
tooth.
He runs it off.
Apologise for that.
He runs no.
Sweet
not
tooth.
asking you to apologise. I'm
An
just saying
affliction.
that you're.
It's not choice.
I was walking down Capel Street the other day and I was thinking of Kenny Cunningham because he recommended. I'm a big Bunsen burger fan. This isn't sponsored, but Kenny recommended
Other
Dash.
burgers are
go.
available.
And I walked past Dash
Here
and then
we
I
go.
thought of Kenny. I walked back in, went in and ordered myself a double cheeseburger.
Seriously, what do you
Well,
think?
Tell you what,
It's up there, innit?
Kenny was right.
was he?
It's gone above Bunsen for me,
Oh,
just by a
I
by
can
a
understand
margin.
that.
I didn't try the chips, so I can't speak for the hand cut fries. But burger wise,
good value. How much?
yeah,
What did you,
I can't remember how much I paid, but it wasn't bad.
$8.95.
Probably something along those lines.
See,
That's not bad. Anything under a tenner. Anything under a tenner for a hamburger in Dublin, you've done well.
Yeah, a double
I
with
don't
cheese.
get the smash burger
Concept.
I'd rather just have a good.
I don't know how it's
burger.
made, but it tastes good. I'll tell you
Did you
that.
get double? Help me get the double burger in there.
The
don't you?
wafer thin.
Yeah, wafer thin, but they because it's wafer thin, they really kind of crisp it up on the grill, and then all the little bits, scratch all them little bits up, bang it all on there.
Is it controversial to
So-
say that I'd be partial to a Five Guys?
You've lost me there. I don't even know where
They're
you're
expensive, very expensive.
Nice.
That wouldn't be an issue.
They're
for
nice.
Adrian.
They're nice.
That wouldn't be an issue for Adrian. You know what I mean? No one of
be-
these people enjoys paying more. It's a bit of a status thing. Bit of a status thing.
I'd be more of a wow
Just
burger
like he's trying
kind
to
of
put us
guy.
down. He's trying to, as soon as I said $8.95, he came back with the five ways. What was it? Five guys?
Five guys, six guys, is it? 5 ways, 4 ways.
They're an American franchise, Kenny. They're like
Oh, Mary, come on. Keep it local produce. That's what I say.
Yeah.
good McDonald's or something. A nice,
That's
nice
local. That's
produce.
local. I don't know. Let's
don't-
hope so.
don't have a clue.
I think they are actually.
How was
They
the Pilates?
Yeah, all good.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was there yesterday. Tickety boot.
you were coming in, you were to be in yesterday, but you decided you knew I was on this morning, so you said listen,
Yeah,
let's
priorities.
defer.
Yeah,
defer
you gotta put
24
your health.
hours.
You gotta put your health.
You do?
Your well-being
No, you're
first.
Yeah.
Don't begrudge me that, lads.
I've never.
Well, sorry, Pilates. I'm sounding like an idiot here. Pilates is basically stretching.
That wouldn't be hard. What?
It's basically stretching. Difficult stretching.
You do sound like an idiot. You're right. Next question.
How does Pilates differentiate from yoga? Is my question.
You were talking. The lads were talking about this on yourself.
Yeah,
and Joe
so let's
were
not
talking
go
about this the
there.
other night,
Yeah, so let's not go there.
That clip exists out there somewhere. If people
In
are
the ether. I can find. I'll go and find it after the
People
show.
want to delete it.
Yeah.
You were saying just before we come on that you weren't especially pliable as a player. That you had to work on that pretty. In your playing days, you had to work on that a lot.
Oh, I did. Honest to God, it was just, I'm embarrassed now looking back. I'd say the first half of those 6-8 years of my career, it's just like embarrassing some of the stuff I was doing. Yeah, very little stretching, no kind of flexibility. Didn't understand it whatsoever. Didn't understand my body. I'd say for the first 6 years, what I used to, Millwall 5 years, we used to have, our gym was a porta cabin on stilts in the car park.
Right.
It wedged in the corner of the car park. It was, you would have put it up in like 20 minutes. One of these shows now, home improvement shows, I put it together in 20 minutes. So I had a multi-gym, walked in the door and had a multi-gym, these multi-gym things in the middle, about four stages. There was the bench press, there was the pull down, one leg weight option, and a few weights kind of scattered, and that was basically it. So you just went in there and just pushed as heavy as you could, as many times as you could.
Jeez.
And funny enough now, I just remembered being in there one afternoon. It was late on, because I was a bit sad, like I hadn't much to be doing over there. Most of the people would have been left, so I rambled out there after maybe an afternoon session or whatever. I was the only one in there. Start pulling the pull down bar, thinking, oh yeah, heaviest weight I could, here we go. This is the type of mentality, this is what I'm talking about. Gotta lift the heaviest weight. And actually, as I pulled it down, the thing snapped. So I pulled it down onto my head, like crashed it down onto my head. Yeah, split myself open.
Oof.
So I was like stumbled out of the park.
People are like,
into the car park. Thankfully, there was no CCTV back in the day. That would have been very funny. I was literally like stumbling across. I didn't really know. Walk back into the physio's walking out of the building. Caught a glance at me. Were you okay? And blood streaming down my face. Don't think so.
Jeez.
Took me in. Blah blah. Anyway, I'm obviously making a bit of a joke of it, but the point being, that was it. That was the kind of mentality. Give me a weight, lift the biggest thing. You know what I mean?
But even in terms of stretching and that stuff, the like squad approach to that, pre-match, pre-training, was there anything, like, was it organised? You know, the way that you see now, you see all these really complex routines where people are sort of, like, you're in a ball of sweat, obviously, before the game even begins, but not the case.
No, very little, almost like a little bit of token gesture. So, yeah, there was a little bit of stretching there, but pretty much, almost like a little kind of tick box. Only when those kind of conditioning coaches and stuff came in and kind of a bit more information coming your way and made you think, and players got a little bit more proactive then. Then obviously the foreign influence, I'd say again, when I say foreign, I don't mean Irish, continental influence coming over, and you see those lads and it's just like, oh, this is interesting, what are you doing there? You're actually having conversations with people and you're thinking, that's interesting, I might try a bit of that. So yeah, so the whole thing evolved over a period of time, but it came too late for me, unfortunately.
You were down at UCD last night. You were more there to see Derry than you were the home team.
He's still cold here. You can feel the cold emanating from his body.
Off from there moments ago.
Yeah, it was cold. Layered up. I was proper layered up, but had the wrong shoes on.
Rookie mistake.
So I was doubled up on my socks. Tracksuit bottoms underneath me jeans. Wasn't too bad, but the footwear wore me flimsy trainers. Schoolboy.
What would you have done? The two pairs of socks might have been the solution.
2 pairs of socks, but just didn't the outside layer protection.
It's relatively exposed down there as well, isn't it? It's not like
even though
it's called the Belfield Bowl.
A couple of years, like don't get me wrong, I'm looking for the sympathy vote, but now the play I wanted to get eyes on there. They hadn't seen a play live this year, so I was interested. It looks as if they're going to
impressive
thereabouts. They were, to be honest with you. Obviously it was a struggle for UCD. I was reading the manager's notes there, Andy Moyle. He was saying he's without a few players, so you have to factor that in. So they found it tough, like probably Derry, not being too disrespectful to the UCD, but probably didn't get out of second gear really. Kind of managed the game well, and not even probably their strongest 11 out. No Duffy, McElhenney, one or two other players. Adam O'Reilly, who I like a lot, who brought him from Preston or was at Pats last year. Yeah, but even still, Jordan McInnes got 2 great goals. I don't know if you've seen the goals, the first 2 goals. Fantastic.
Ollie O'Neill's in from Fulham as well. Yeah,
came off the bench. Like, that's what I'm saying, this squad depth looks good. They look as if, even last night, one-off game, but you sense they look as if they're ready for a title challenge. I know they were thereabouts last year, but they look in good shape. But the acquisitions they've made have obviously strengthened them. So yeah, they're in a good place.
We're going to have a lot of League of Ireland chat across the course of the show, because we're going to come back to that with Vinny Perth on a little bit later on. He's going to join us in the studio to chat a little bit more about some of the results last night, some interesting stuff. You're a relatively newcomer to the League of Ireland. Is that fair enough to say? Relatively.
No, we're talking about this, but no, I wouldn't say so. In terms of getting to a huge amount of live fixtures, yeah, maybe so. I probably watched more League One the last 3 or 4 or 5 years than I've ever done. But yeah, I always kept in contact with it. Even I've finished playing about 15 years now, so I've kind of been around. Most of my work is over here in Dublin anyway. So generally speaking, if I'm over, I'd looked at the games. If there's a game in town, Dublin in particular, I'd kind of pitch up. But generally I always kind of kept in contact. I wouldn't give it the old banging the drum, massive fan in the League of Ireland as such, but always interested in it, and certainly in terms of the players and young talent in particular, which has always been a common theme, I think, in the League of Ireland. I mean, that's always been a constant in terms of where the league is at financially, the quality of football that we're seeing, facilities and all of that, you know what I mean? But in terms of the one constant theme for me has been, young talent in the league, and that's as prominent now as it's ever been.
When you retired, it was not by choice, really, was it? Were you going to retire anyway? I know you were injured at the end of your days at Sunderland.
Adrian.
But I'm wondering where I'm going with this. I'll give you the signpost where I'm going.
Don't take me back to that. That's a dark place.
I wondered, did you have any inkling to come back and play?
I didn't have it. No, when I finished, I was kind of I was done really. I would say I was done. I probably could have actually played a bit. I finished when I was 36 at Sunderland, and I probably could have played for another year, maybe at some level, a year. But I wasn't mentally. I'd had enough to be honest. Yeah, I was, because I was not struggling physically. Injury was, but I wasn't playing at the level that I wanted. You know, you're struggling 36, your body's struggling, and you know you're kidding yourself on a little bit. You know what I mean?
Do you not think? You know, I could take at whatever level, like go down to whatever it would have been at the time. I'd take a step down and
no. Funny enough, I heard that you hear that when you're a younger pro, people say to play for as long as you can, much you can for as kind of as long as you can. And I've seen players do that, play at a very high level, come back, play Championship, Div 2, and go and play wherever level they can until late 30s, 40s. And for some people, that might be the right decision. But I don't think it's a given, not for everybody. I think for some players, and I may have been one of them, it gets to a point when your performance levels drop off to a certain degree there. It's hard to stomach it, to be honest with you.
Did retirement scare you, or did you embrace it when it came around?
Probably neither, to be honest with you. You know it's coming. You know, again, it's very cliche, the lads, before you just don't realise, and you kind of do, of course you do. You know it's kind of coming. You can kind of blind yourself to it, or kind of, I don't want to deal with it, fair enough. But yeah, it's coming down the tracks at you like a train. So it was just one of those things. You accept it and you move on. I don't know, people talk about little transitions and all that. I suppose there is, to a certain extent, and I think it is true. A lot of players kind of struggle with it. I think probably some of the data coming out there will probably indicate there's indicators there. A lot of players do. So I have a small amount of sympathy, but not a huge amount. I've got to be honest with you, like, you know what I mean? There's a lot of people struggling out there for a lot of different reasons, like, you know what I mean? So you just got to get on with it. It's as simple as that. You move on, appreciate for what you had, but that's it. It's done. It's history, and you just
next stage of your life.
You just kind of move on, plod on, don't you?
You strike me as somebody who's easily able to compartmentalize that sort of stuff, like that. You can say, right, in a way that I'm sure a lot of people, like you're hinting at there, a lot of footballers obviously come out of that system and are so institutionalised by everything that's gone on over the last I heard a comment recently, it'll come to me in a second who said it, but they said there were John Giles on with Nathan last week talking about you get into football at 15, you leave at 35 and you're still a 15-year-old.
In some respects, yeah. I think that's probably changed a little bit this last kind of generation, like probably a little bit more rounded in terms of into how they're prepared when they come out the football game, and putting things in place. A lot of good advice out there now, maybe even courses, education are different things. Like I think it was different kind of 20 years ago. I think John's certainly right, certainly in his time. But it's true. Yeah, it is true. There's a small, but again, you can't over, the old violin out and all that lark, like, you know what I mean? You just gotta get on with it. And you're right, you do have to. I think you do have to compartmentalised, like you said. You could just kind of box it off and that, because you can't have all that stuff spinning around in your head. That's it. It's done. Like, and I was lucky. I still had a bit of contact with the media stuff. It wasn't a decision I made. This is me, the media, like, you know what I mean. But I just kind of stumbled into it. I suppose that kind of helped me a little bit, kind of being around, and I enjoy the football and the analysis, and even with people a little bit, not kind of like-minded people who like their football and they're kind of into it. Meet up with the lads occasionally who you played with and that type of thing. So it wasn't as if there was massive distance between me. I was lost in a vortex somewhere, like, you know what I mean. Woe me and all that kind of thing. So so to a small degree, I'm very thankful to you lads.
Yeah, but you also have to blow more smoke in your direction, like that ability to, like, we'd be dealing on a fairly regular basis with people who are involved in sport or have come out of sport. Not everybody has the ability to
talk,
to be in company and get that sort of, like, it's quite clear from a lot of people that you meet that are involved or post-sport, given the selfish nature of it and the dressing room nature of it, that actually been functioning in normal society doesn't come that easy to them. Whereas I never really had that vibe with you. I kind of feel that you're...
no, I think that's a stretch, Adrian. Like, that's
Shane will tell you, I'm sure the same.
People function in normal society. Yeah. Bloody well, you can't have a conversation with people on the street.
Absolutely.
No, I don't agree with that.
I
think that's too much.
A lot of players don't want to talk about the career in depth. They don't want to think about it. They almost want to move on fully.
I'd say. You're talking to one here.
Well, but the people love the nostalgia.
Because you got me on the rack. You changed the subject about 8 times.
Was
haven't taken the hint.
Last couple of questions. You were Sunderland captain that year when you got injured. Was that
I think I might have had the Harry Maguire role. I might have been club captain by the end of the year.
Who was the Bruno?
That token gesture one.
Well, there was no way that man was giving you the captaincy as a token gesture. No chance.
Who was that?
Roy.
Oh, no, Roy, yeah. But Roy came in a little bit...
Did he not make you captain?
No, Roy didn't make me captain. No, Niall, because Niall took on the manager's job. Yeah.
He did a great job for a short period of time, didn't he? Am I wrong about that? No, okay, I'm wrong about that.
No.
I take that one back.
No, because Roy wouldn't have made me captain. I missed that 4 months of that year through injury when Roy came in. Okay. So the captaincy would have been handed.
So it was never
would have been handed on. Yeah.
You never had to sit down and talk to him about, like. Or was there?
Why the hell have I not got that armband, Roy?
I'm getting back next week.
I demand. No, Roy, keep quiet. Let me talk.
I believe those conversations generally went
fly on the wall there,
So you would have had very little dealings with him then, would you? At that time, if you were injured, like, you wouldn't have been in and about training grounds, or would you?
No, not for that period. Certainly when I was injured. No, because you know what it's like. You're injured. You're kind of ostracised to a point. That's the way it is. Like, you just get on with it. You know. So yeah, that was par for the course. But no, it was an enjoyable year. That, like I said, I didn't play towards the end. Got myself back fit, but didn't play. The team was flying, but it was nice to be in, that environment to be in. Because up until then, I'd never been involved in it to any kind of success or trophy. Or forget about all of that. And funny enough, people say to me like, "Oh, did you ever win?" I mean, if you asked me, did I ever win a trophy? I'd like, no trophy. I honestly forget. Yeah. I've got a medal for that year. We won the championship, but it doesn't feel like it. If being honest with you, I only played about a dozen games at the start of the season, and that was that. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, but I don't.
You have to play what, 8 or 10 games to get it, or is that?
Why don't you count that?
To be honest with you,
I'd be counting that if I was you. Jesus,
as we know from previous conversation, Shane, Kenny keeps these things, the tropes from his career.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Yeah,
you probably don't even know where the medal is, do you?
No, I haven't seen it. No, it's in my laundry bag with me jerseys.
Do you have the ball? You see the ball behind the World Cup?
He has all the stuff up in his attic.
All the Irish stuff, yeah.
You
got to hold on to some bits, you know.
Kenny, seriously, that breaks my heart when I hear that stuff.
Breaks your heart?
Yeah. They're amazing things to have.
I didn't get rid of them, didn't bin them, they're around.
Can we start a campaign to find Kenny Cunningham's championship medal?
He knows where it is, he just doesn't want to look at it. Is that right?
Do you know where it is?
I presume it's in the laundry bag. This one I'm telling you.
Can you commit on air, right? To allowing us to come in with cameras and open those laundry bags and have a look. No. I think that would be.
What's the show where they come into the house, Peggy, and
Irish
clean out the gaff?
That's ever been made.
All the stuff's in bits.
Yeah.
Oh,
we'll do that. I'm sure your gaff's not like that, Ken.
That would be amazing.
Far off, to be fair.
Would you be up for that?
No, not at all.
I'll take.
So you're saying there's a chance?
That's me compartmentalising and just boxing that off.
Somebody wondering here, what was Keane like as a manager? Was he tactical? I mean, you probably didn't get to see a huge amount of that side of him, did you, if you were not on the pitch?
Yeah, well, I only spent that 1 year with Roy, to be honest with you. So obviously Roy had managed for a long time after that. So I suppose it'd be difficult to kind of pigeonhole him after, but that was his first taste of management. So I thought he done very well that year, to be honest with you, considering it was his first year. He brought a couple of assistants in with him who he'd worked with previously. Didn't involve himself a huge amount on the training pitch. Really? Never thought he would. But training was very well organised, very well thought out, very well planned. He left that to his kind of number 2 and things like that. So I would say that in terms of the day-to-day training was very good. Nothing loose about it whatsoever. But yeah, not a huge amount of tactical side to the setup. Not a huge amount of shape boys and whatever. Not a huge amount of time spent on that. And Roy wouldn't at that point didn't get hugely involved in it. That might change later when he managed elsewhere and stuff like that. But yeah, I think he had a sense of that with Roy, don't you? You hear about when he talks about his playing career, managers who he played with. You get a sense with Roy, he didn't want to be overburdened with too much of that information, which I always thought was interesting because Roy was obviously very smart and his game intelligence was off the scale in terms of how he saw the game and his basic reading in the game. Roy didn't need too much information. Elite players generally don't, but that's not always the case, obviously, as you go down the as you go down the pyramid and stuff like that. You feel as if players need a little bit more information, a little bit more guidance. So that's something which is interesting in the game. You learn, you coach and whatever else, but no right or wrong really, I don't think.
I saw he missed out on the Pundit of the Year last night there was the Sports Journalist of the Year awards. I don't know actually. Ali McCoist won Pundit of the Year,
right?
Which not many people. Yeah, when you
what is a point? What technically is it?
Studio analysis, in-game commentary, any of that sort.
I'd be calling him co-commentator of the year.
I know, but he does a lot of punditry on TalkSport.
Yeah, he's a very good talker, I will say that.
He's brilliant.
Yeah, he does a breakfast. A couple of times I've heard him on the breakfast thing over in the UK. Very good. You're talking about communication, interaction with people, tone, the whole shebang. Very smart, good sense of humour. So from that point of view, and I've heard a couple of his co-coms decent as well. Wouldn't necessarily say co-com is stand out, but still you get a flavour of that what I'm talking about, even on the co-coms when he does it. What was Roy like post-match? I didn't say the United Liverpool.
Well,
he was fairly quiet, reasonably quiet. Like he still went to town on them a little bit, but he was kind of letting Gary Neville do the chatting, and him and Neville and Souness were doing a lot of the back and forth. And Keane was very critical of Bruno Fernandes, I have to say, unsurprisingly, and his attitude in the second half particularly. But he was muted enough compared to what he would normally be.
He must have been up there. He must have been in the mix.
He was nominated. Yeah, he was nominated, and there was a couple of cricketing pundits in there and bits and pieces like that. Ali McCoist made a gag that it's been a bad 48 hours for Roy.
Careful. Yeah.
I thought it was a good. That was good. I'd be a big Ali McCoist fan. I take your point about the in-game stuff. I think as much of the attraction to him was about the personality bit and the charisma bit, and everybody sort of feels like his pal.
Yeah. And I think with him, you don't feel as if it's too forced. Some people you kind of try and give up that kind of vibe, but you're not quite buying it. Hey, you probably know better than me. A bit like myself putting on this forest mile this morning, but you sense with him, with McCoist, it's kind of natural. What you see is what you get. I think people kind of get a sense of that.
I was saying it with the commentary even at the weekend. People have certain commentators that they like and don't like. I want a commentator where you go out to the kitchen for a cup of tea and you can hear there's been a chance or a goal because the tone has been raised, the voice has been raised. With some commentators at the moment, it's just it's for me
that's interesting.
You wouldn't know there's been a goal.
You're talking about me directly here, I'm getting a sense of that. That was actually. It is interesting. You're right, though. People think I don't really give it too much thought in terms of the do a bit of co-com stuff, which I actually enjoy. But I don't overthink it. I don't think it at all, to be honest with you. But
you're better off.
No, I don't think so, actually. No, I think you're wrong there. I think what you should really be doing is actually listening back to your commentary and actually listening to people.
That works for some people.
Yeah, but it does matter. You're right. And tone, exactly, and pitch, I think really does matter. It gets people's attention, doesn't it, at various moments. Over-talking, which I've been very guilty of for a long period of time and still am. tell you about. I got a letter posted to me at RTE some time ago. It was very good. Obviously, wouldn't get a lot of if any, fan mail, but this has been there for about 6 months. I came into RTE, a lad threw it at me. Look, I found this. Oh, yeah, well, I opened it up. Usually, it's someone from Kazakhstan looking for 2 photos signed or whatever, and no postage.
They're looking for the other Kenny
Cunningham. Cost you
Cunningham.
about £18 to get the postage or whatever. Anyway, but I opened up, it was a letter, and it was actually from a gentleman in South Dublin. Very well written, whole page. Oh, this is interesting. Started off, Ken, very nice, Ken, a big fan, blah, your career, and hold on, where's this leading? However, and he went on to explain, look, I think I need to point out a few things in terms of your co-commentary style. I made that point that you've made there. I think you've got to be very careful that you don't over-talk it, too much information, really feel as if you need to hold back. And he was absolutely right in terms of what he said, because you kind of I listened to it and I thought, you're absolutely right. So a little bit like you're saying there, I think it is a skill, and it's a skill which you can.
No, I wasn't pointing at you whatsoever. I think
you're right. I'm saying it's just how coincidentally I'm in the yoke, but you're absolutely. I think it is something which you've already got it, you haven't. I think there's a certain amount of that, but I think you can sharpen it up if you're really kind of, you got your blinkers on. You can really get good at it. You can improve and get better. So I think I think once you wrap up and you have your Weetabix or banana before you start, then you're onto a winner on the commentary.
The letter was signed R. Nugent.
Donnybrook. No, I tell you what, he signed it, but he didn't put his address on it, because I would have actually penned him. I did.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, it was a little bit.
Because you took it in the spirit that he.
Oh yeah, no, it wasn't a fair. And he was an old boy, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? And you have to show a bit of respect. And you know what? He actually made it. It wasn't a case of, sort yourself out, you're a disgrace, you're embarrassing yourself and all of that, like. Yeah. It was kind of quite constructive, but he was right. He was absolutely right. I used to be like that when I was younger, 15, 16. I used to write letters to celebrities looking for autographs in the post. Would you have got that? You say you're getting letters from Kazakhstan and all sorts of places. You might have got a letter from me. I have autographs from you back in the day. Yeah. Kenny used to be one of the great players to stop outside the old Lansdowne Road.
Right. And it would always stop like.
I have a number of autographs of Kenny Cunningham in my.
So was there? There would have been players that didn't, obviously.
100%. Yeah. Now Kevin Gaban was always very good.
Shame.
Kenny, Kev, David Connolly was very good. Richard Dunn was very good. There's a few players who I was like, they're always stopping. Bankers. All regulars in the show as well.
Bankers.
By chance. No, they were brilliant. Always stopped for the young kids, and I was one of them. I always thought the lads were very. This is post-match, is it? Where Lansdowne? Yeah, Lansdowne. Andorra would have been my first game. Oh, was that right, yeah? You came out, there was a little. That's totally different to what it is nowadays. Yeah, but I'm trying to take even the exit Lansdowne. That man, I'm struggling.
Did it come out between the house and the stand? Is that right?
Yeah. And they came out. And there was kind of the fences set up.
Cottage, what was it?
That little cottage thing, yeah. Did someone actually live in that? Did we ever?
No, it was like a little. It was a clubhouse.
I thought it was one of those things they wouldn't sell.
They opened the front door. There's a game on
today. They build it around it, like.
I wonder what's happening outside. Did you hear that outside? Turn on that TV a second.
Well, I tell you what summed up the old Lansdowne for me. Talk about chalk and cheese, because obviously the Vives would still be Lansdowne to me, but obviously it's not in a lot of other respects. But I always remember after the game. Carsey, Stephen Carr, because Carsey would have been Norris, he wouldn't have been far down for me. His family from Donaghmede would have been up in Coolock, but I remember him running out maybe at times after the game. I remember actually seeing him once running out to the train station outside at Lansdowne, because the station's literally right outside there. So he'd grab his bag and leg out and jump on the dart. I remember once watching him. I remember once, with his bag over his head to the dart to go back to his man dad's, like. So something small like that, you know what I mean? You think, that's
very Irish
of the times, isn't it?
You wouldn't get that now.
Very nostalgic, like. Yeah.
Well, you get mobbed, it'd be a social media moment.
Yeah, TikTok all over it.
Yeah,
Jesus.
Yeah, it's all forced and all that type of thing. But yeah, just a small little thing. Yesteryear, I suppose.
Here's what's coming up between now and 10 for you this morning. Almost 8 o'clock. You're very welcome along to OTB AM, wherever it is you are at. Adrian, Shane and Kenny with you over the course of the morning. OTB AM with Gillette Labs. Get the ultimate shave or your money back. Neon Night Edition is available now. We have Andy Mitten on in about 10 minutes time. We'll have more reaction, more fallout from United Liverpool. Plenty more little tidbits of stories emerging from the papers this morning. So that's coming your way in the next 10 minutes. We're going to talk to Chris Medland. We were chatting to him last Friday in advance of the Bahrain Grand Prix, and we will get into more details with him about the Verstappen's victory and I mean, one race in, his inevitable march to the championship, as Shane will tell you in just a little bit. John Duggan will be with us at 20 to 9 to let us know what's happening in the world of live sport. We'll talk to Vinny Perth, who'll be in studio. He was at the Rovers game last night, and Kenny obviously was in the Belfield Bowl, so we'll get their combined thoughts on last night's round of games in the League of Ireland. Plenty of talking points from that. The power rankings will be updated in the company of Tommy Rooney at 9:10 this morning. Who will be the movers and shakers, or will there be any movers and shakers at all after the last weekend, the last round of games in the Allianz Football League? That's coming your way at 9:10, and then Tom English from the show last night at 9:30. So as you can tell, it's a nice stack show for you this morning between now and 10 o'clock. I mentioned a couple of the tidbits emerging from the fallout from the drubbing, Kenny, at Anfield on Sunday, and there's plenty more. He made the players sit in silence. Apparently the United players sit in silence in the dressing room. This is what's been reported. Anyway, you always get these little bits and pieces that come out in the days after a game, that he made them sit in silence and listen, be in tune with the Liverpool celebrations.
Yeah, sounds like a bit of Mikel Arteta moment, this. Yeah.
Is that meant to be
well, I've got to be honest with you. I roll my eyes a little bit. Like, I think we're all impressed with the job Ten Hag's done in terms of the turnaround off the back of the start of the season, which they had. So I think he's had a huge amount of plaudits of late, and rightly so. I don't read too much into these things. It was a little bit like that performance or that result some time ago. Do you remember he got them in on the Monday and he had him running?
Yeah, 4-0.
At the Brentford, that was early in the season.
12 kilometres less than Brentford in the game, and he made them. And he himself, the thing that made me laugh from that one was, and they're still writing about it again this morning, that, you know, it was such a show of, you know,
the cult of personality, and
he ran it himself. And that was this was why it was a show of unity. I mean,
yeah. So I wasn't buying into that at the time. I've got to be honest with you. That didn't make it. No, for me that was like a little bit show. You could argue, they ran 12 kilometres less, so they should, you know. But that was collectively the whole team, wasn't it? So you're making every individual work run for. So yeah, that didn't quite stand. That took me back to the day where talking about nostalgia, when you would get a bit of a beating or you get a drubbing, the performance levels wouldn't have been up, and you'd be in the following morning, Sunday morning. Like, I remember coming in and just running, just literally slogging it, and that was like, you know, you did it, you accepted that was par for the course, but it was like nonsensical stuff. You were coming in, you were stiff, you know, you might have been dehydrated, players carrying knocks, and you were being asked to go and sprint around the pitch or go on a massive hike, or do a load of sprints, like punishment. It was like punishment stuff, mad stuff, really, like, you know what I mean? So actually that Ten Hag thing early in the season had a bit of a flavour of that. I know it would have been a little bit more in terms of thought out in terms of exactly what kind of running they're doing, but the principle of it, kind of, that wasn't good enough, you're going to get punished. I don't think. It's a bit too schoolmastery, that, for me. So this is a little bit different. I take your point, this is a little bit more subtle, isn't it? But I don't know. I'm trying to picture myself in that dressing room and the manager saying, look, everybody quiet now, I want you to listen to that. I'd be like, Gaffer, I'd rather you start shouting and screaming, to be honest with you.
But also, you know even outside of him shouting and screaming, like, it wouldn't have been particularly noisy dressing room, I would have thought, anyway. Like, who's in ranting and raving?
I think after 7-0 Liverpool players would be giving it loads, because
Liverpool players would, but in the United dressing room,
they'd be quiet anyway.
I couldn't imagine they would.
Well, yeah, you'd imagine so. Like,
yeah, I think that's the time for me, though. I've got to be honest with you. This is interesting. Again, there's no right or wrong. I suppose this is management spiel and man management, etc. You know, after a result, like, they probably talk about this in coaching seminars. How do you deal with that absolute drubbing? You know what I mean? Showed players coming into the dressing room after. How do you immediately approach that as a manager? What do you do? Some managers, right, lads, have a shower, you know, pack your bags, see you in the morning. Others, right, let's have a, you know, listen to the whatever. Other managers go in there, bang, let them have it. I think it's a good. I remember Ferguson vaguely some years ago reading a little bit. Ferguson was talking, and I think his attitude was, get it out at the time. Yeah, get it out and
deal with it.
Yeah, deal with it then. Put it out there. Have your toe to toe, and then whoosh, you come in on the Monday and that's it. Rather than maybe let it linger for a period of time, which I'm sure other managers would, and then try and confront it on the Monday and go and, you know, get stuck into it then. You know, and that made a little bit of sense to me. You know, just get it out. Even as a player, you might be looking over at somebody in the dressing room, he's let us down today.
Yeah, but,
you know, at least say it to his face, well, bang, this is how I feel. honestly.
Is that not dangerous? Like, to play devil's advocate, is it not better to sleep on it? Everyone reacts calmly the next day. They've had a bit of time to think about it and in a relaxed manner, then the next day have a proper discussion about it.
Yeah,
without finger pointing.
Yeah. But I think every dressing room is different and every situation is different. I suppose these are the very good managers have a good feel for that when they're coming. Almost when they walk into they might have a picture in their head. This is how I'm going to handle this. They walk into the dressing room and within 10 seconds, no, it's changed. They get a sense of, no, I've got to deal with this now, or well, I'm going to hammer a few people. They think, actually, no, this doesn't feel right. I'm going to step back. You know what I mean? So that's like the very good managers get a bit of a sense for that. You know, so that separates the very best from the also-rans, I suppose. But yeah, again, no right or wrong. So yeah, it was interesting. Yeah, but not for me, to be honest with you. When I read that about the silence, for me that felt like awkward. And no, as an athlete, professional, that's not for me. That's not what you're aware of that. You know that
he's obviously hoping that this is the thing. Let's bottle this, and the next time the difficulty.
But it's there. You have to inside you anyway. You don't have to breathe that in. Listen, you've had that for the whole of the second half. You've had it walking off the pitch down the tunnel. That's why your head's spinning.
It's plenty full already. Is that the
yeah, I think your head's spinning. All of that's in there anyway. By the time you get into the dressing room, I don't think the manager needs to hold on. Have a listen to the Liverpool supporters say, "Oh, is that right? Oh, yeah, of course, yeah." No, that's in there already. You're absolutely ready to pop. I almost think you need a little bit of a release. Can't let it get too much out of hand. Don't get me wrong, but you're talking about professional dressing room here, experienced players. You know, people start having a pop, and that's par of the course.
Yeah.
They can't be taking that personally, like carrying a grudge into the week off the back of that. You got to let that bounce off and give a bit back. But for me, get it out there. That, you know, more it's a knockout, like that type of thing in the dressing room. Maybe for me that makes more sense than maybe the opposite approach. But like I said, no right or wrong.
Yeah.
I think one of the difficulties for United is that they're like looking at the fixture list. They've Tottenham and Chelsea to come before the end of the season, both of them in April.
Tottenham
they obviously have whatever. Well, I'm sort of clutching at straws a little bit.
John Duggan's there, you know. John Duggan's
there. He'll be in later.
I'm clutching at straws even a little bit. Like they've bet themselves in the Europa League. Maybe they progress. Maybe they get like an Arsenal later. But I'm talking about like the opportunity to get back in the pitch against a quality team and get that out of the system at some point. Like it's almost not there. This season, unless they get to a Europa League final.
Yeah. I don't think you need that. I don't think necessarily after performance. I don't think you need that. We want that next big one coming down the road. I think Betis maybe falls into that category. Like, you know, knockout
Fulham in the FA Cup as well.
Europa League. I think that European night, albeit the Europa, you know, I still think that's a big game midweek, and that's a competition they can win. So I'd actually say the Betis game for me is probably a good chance to do that. But I think even it's Southampton, isn't it, on the Saturday? Even Southampton, although albeit they're bottom of the table. Anything, I think you just want to get back on the pitch, don't you? You just want to show that, look, our attitude, we're back on it, we're back at the level that we want to be. Does
he make 6 or 7? Ten Hag is not a man to alternate a starting 11, but to make a point here, does he change the whole team? Does he make 5, 6, 7 changes?
I don't think
that would really send a message.
Yeah, but this is off the back of a 10-12 match, more or less unbeaten run. I think it'd be pretty churlish from his point of view, right? That's one significantly below par performance, don't get me wrong. Well, that's it.
But it was the attitude. It was the attitude of some of the players.
Yeah, it was the attitude. I don't think necessarily you have to come with the whip on that one, though. To be honest, because those players have served them very well. If anything, it just for me indicates the kind of weaknesses that are still in that Manchester United squad. I know it's a cliche, bit of a reality check, but I think it was for anybody getting too carried away. Manchester United supporters, etc., or neutrals looking at United, talk of a championship charge this season. Potentially, you can't rule United out, and a perception there that this is a championship title winning team that we're looking at. I think that performance at the weekend kind of blew that out in terms of, well, this Manchester United team, as well as they've been certainly of late, are still significantly short in terms of challenging those teams above them in the league.
Even if you do start to make changes, where do you stop?
Yeah,
well, and the players you're taking out are the players that before last weekend were your absolute bankers, mainstays.
Yeah, I would. To be fair, they would probably Andy's going to come on. For me, the one thing that surprised me, this is not after the fact, but before the game, the team sheets came in, and I looked at them and I saw the players, and I thought, from United's perspective, that makes sense. Rashford off the left, Weghorst up top, and Bruno Fernandes as a 10. You know, we know how effective Rashford is off the left. We know Bruno's at his best in that central position there. Weghorst does his shift high up the pitch, So to see that little shift in terms of Rashford, Weghorst is a 10, and Bruno straight away, I was like, oof, straight away that looks unbalanced to me. Fernandes gives you nothing down the left hand side 1v1. We know Liverpool's weakness down there in terms of defensively, so you let him off the hook. by playing Bruno out there. I think it unbalances the team. Playing Weghorst, spoke about this like as a number 10, probably the most unorthodox number 10, 6'4", like built like a giraffe, playing like in the pocket behind a central striker. You know what I mean? And then you're totally dependent. Then you're looking at Anthony. Gives a bit of width down that right hand side. Well, you feast or a famine with Anthony at the moment. You don't know where you're going to get absolutely nothing from him at the weekend. So difficult to be critical of Ten Hag at the moment, but I must admit that setup in terms of where he positioned players, didn't bowl me over.
He's nearly done a pep on it. He's sort of overthought it.
Yeah, he's done it before, to be honest with you. I'm not a huge fan of Fernandes there's no future for me, Bruno Fernandes playing off the flank, so I don't see it at all. I think, like, for the reasons that I've said, if he has to play in this United team going forward, it's as a 10. I don't think he's even a given to start as a 10. I think going forward, the likes of Ericsson and even a second striker will challenge him for that number 10 position. I haven't bought into the hype of him this year, Bruno, in terms of his overall performances. Been decent enough, attitude, he's made contributions, but I don't think his numbers are up there in terms of assists and goals as he has done previously. And certainly when he operates those positions down the flank, for me, like I said, it detracts from Manchester United at their best at the moment for me. Speed down the flanks, natural kind of wingers, speed down the flanks, and a little schemer as a number 10, whether that be Fernandes, Ericsson, or whoever that is. That's the kind of template at the moment which kind of serves them well for me. Once they deviate away from that, and you mentioned about Pep overcomplicating them, I understand what you're saying. For me, it's not as impressive what I'm seeing from Manchester. We got a flavour of that obviously the weekend against Liverpool.
Bunch of comments coming into us here. Bobby Dwyer is a Spurs fan, is he?
He is a Tottenham fan, yeah.
So Bobby Dwyer says United fans claiming they're back, Spurs fans fuming with their team at the moment, and there's only 4 points in it. Happy to put a €50 charity bet on with Shane that will still finish ahead of them.
Deal.
Oh, Bobby, get in touch.
Shake the virtual hand. Look, lads, it's Tottenham. Do you know? I'll always let you down, Bobby.
COM on YouTube here. Good morning to CAM. Sorry to whinge, but this interview is ridiculous. After 30 minutes of Brown Nose and Kenny, only now with 8 minutes to go they begin to discuss current football stories. COM.
Fair play. I back that 100%.
I just said he was a good
back that 100%.
He was a good autograph signer. That's all I said.
COM.
He signed.
Well said.
He signed autographs for kids.
Show.
Well said.
There's lots to get to. We're easing ourselves into.
Put a bit of respect on Kenny's name, for God's sake. Jesus.
Get your Weetabix in.
Yeah.
Perspective.
Take a breath. A little bit of Pilates this morning to do you absolutely no harm whatsoever.
You're ready, Breck.
What's this Ready Breck slander, says Burbuck. You're just not a fan, that's it. Ready Breck and Bruno Fernandes just not doing it for you this morning.
Yeah, maybe Bruno needs his Weetabix.
Brilliant having Kenny on to chat, way more enjoyable, says Tony. Bump. Kenny, brilliant this morning, says Dahi O'Shaughnessy. Just feels like a chat with friends over pints. Perfect. And we'll go with that for the minute, Kenny. I think that's fair enough. That's how I feel about you.
Yeah, but you're doubling down on what that lad was talking about, that criticism in terms of too chummy and all that by reading out compliment.
No. I'd counter that with saying the exact opposite. That you need a bit of yin and yang.
Yeah.
And typically you, Kenny, to not.
I thought you were a little bit disrespectful. I thought you were a little bit disrespectful to that.
To COM.
That caller, to be honest,
just tell him to. I'm not been.
Just because he didn't like.
That's the way we do it in this show. We have chats, nice.
We just spoke about that constructive criticism in the dressing room, being prepared to take criticism. We just spoke about the United dressing room after the game. But yeah, you're not prepared to take any criticism. I'm saying
that COM has probably had a bad start to the morning. He or she has got out the wrong side of bed and just needs a little.
I'd counteract that.
I take your point. I take your point. Constructive criticism there. That's always good. Fair enough. Okay, it is 13 minutes past 8. It's OTB AM. A reminder that Braeburn Coffee is the official coffee partner of OTB. New Braeburn locations popping up every month. You can visit applegreenstores.com/Braeburn to find your nearest Braeburn coffee experience. After this short break, we're back to the football, we're back to United Liverpool, and we're back with Andy Mitten.
OTB AM. The Koigig Pod.
I wouldn't even look at them. I wouldn't even prepare to play against them, because you don't know what you're going to get. We could beat them 6-0. Or we could lose 6-0.
Pre-season, I haven't been broken by it yet, so ask away. Shamrock Rovers, even though they're a new club, based on pre-season, you'd be looking at them.
Keep up to date with all the WSL action every Tuesday and subscribe to the feed in the OTB SPORTS app now. OTB AM with Gillette Labs. Get the ultimate shave or your money back. Neon Night Edition available now.
8:14. Welcome back to OTB AM. Good morning to you, wherever it is you are at. It's Adrian, Shane and Kenny Cunningham with you this morning, right through until 10 o'clock. I'm delighted to say that from United We Stand, Andy Mitten is on the line. Morning, Andy.
Good morning.
I say this with the greatest sincerity. Thanks for taking our call this morning. Normally I say that as a sort of a bluff start to an interview, but we appreciate it. A little bit more time to sit in the result and the performance, obviously, from Sunday, and fans obviously still trying to figure out, is this a one-off? Is it something deeper? Where do you sit?
I hope and think it is a one-off. If you look how Manchester United have responded to setbacks this season, and there's been a few significant ones, then the reaction has been very positive. Having lost to Brentford, United went on an unbeaten run. Same again after the Manchester derby, 7 or 8 games. Same again after Aston Villa in November, 9 or 10 games. Same again after Arsenal in January, right up to the defeat at Anfield. So the worry is that this becomes a trend. The reality so far has been that United have responded extremely well, and that they've taken something from the defeats, heavy defeats as well. 4 at Brentford, 6 at City, 7 at Anfield. Sounds like there's going to be an 8 coming soon. Perish the thought. But I'm trying to be level-headed about it. This has actually been a good season for Manchester United. A trophy's been won. 3rd in the league, 7 points ahead of Liverpool so far. Yeah, Sunday was horrific. Of course it was. But if you want a reaction from me screaming away, because that's what social media algorithms demand, and saying, look at this guy having a meltdown, I'm not the man for that, because I've seen Manchester United lose games in all the time I've supported the club. I've seen them get hammered, even the best sides. I've seen Fergie's title winners lose 3 games on the bounce, conceding 6 at Southampton, 5 at Newcastle, and getting beat at home to Chelsea. It happens, and 7-0 at Anfield obviously are not meant to happen, but you do get freak results, and Jurgen Klopp used the word freak, and I think it's right. Liverpool were brilliant on Sunday. Everything went right for them. Yeah. They were at home, the crowd got up in the second half, and everything went wrong for Manchester United. But it's Real Betis on Thursday. I spoke to their central midfielder yesterday, Guido Rodriguez, World Cup winner with Argentina. Huge club, Betis, average crowd of 51,000. I'm really looking forward to it, and I actually think that Manchester United will respond. The worry, which we won't know until Thursday or Southampton at the weekend, is that somehow these players have come too far. They're shattered because of the intensity of all the matches, the World Cup break. But United after the World Cup have been really in form, played really well. I think away form in the league is a concern. It's not as bad as Liverpool's, but it's nowhere near as good as City's or Arsenal's. But we're 9 months into a new manager. I'm absolutely fine with how he's done. He has transformed Manchester United. Trust me, I speak to people inside that club every single day. And even after the really good game in camp now, 2 or 3 weeks ago, when Xavi Hernandez was saying Manchester United are one of the best teams in Europe, I spoke to people at the club and they're like, no, we've got a long, long way to go here.
In some regards, the 7-0 sort of freakish, as you say, sort of nature of the outcome has almost, the bonkers nature of it has almost done away with the critical analysis. If it had been 1-0 or 2-0, I would argue that we'd have been having much more conversations about where are the areas in that United team that need addressing almost.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment, and it gives ammunition. A few United fans told me they got to work yesterday and there was a can of 7-Up waiting for him.
We had one in here yesterday as well for us, Andy. So
yeah, I would be exactly the same if that was Liverpool, and that's part of the rivalry. It's part of the tribalism. Beating Liverpool at Old Trafford in August was really significant. That was Erik ten Hag's first win. Didn't expect that at all. I didn't expect United to finish above Liverpool this season, and they might not do. But at the moment, after 25 games, Manchester United are 7 points clear of Liverpool, won one cup, still in the Europa League, still in the FA Cup. But yeah, it was freakish. You can look at individuals, but if you're going to do that, you're going to have to look at every single one, because not one of them played well. They just lost their heads, and Ten Hag used the word unprofessional, which I speak to a lot of professional footballers. If you're being described as unprofessional, that is a major slur on you. If your manager's calling you that, then he's not happy with you. But I think they'll take it, because because he's right.
Andy, how's it going? Ken Cunningham, you well?
Hi Ken, good to see you.
Yeah. I agree a lot.
Well.
Yeah, I should take that back really. I agree with a lot of what you said there, Andy, and you're right in terms of a bit of a once-off in terms of performance levels from a number of the players, the likes of Luke Shaw, Martinez and Casemiro, high level, consistent level of performances from them this season. But you wouldn't put kind of Anthony into that category. It wasn't a kind of freakish performance from him yesterday. And even Bruno Fernandes, you speak about surprise in terms of some of the performances, and there would have been too much criticism of Ten Hag in terms of the kind of tactical setup, etc. But this surprised me a little bit when I saw this starting lineup yesterday, and Bruno was slung out on the left wing in Weghorst and that withdrawn number 10 role. So it's probably two questions for you. I mean, personally, I don't think there's too much of a future for Bruno as an out-and-out winger in any team, let alone this Manchester United team. And Anthony as well was a big worry yesterday. Don't get me wrong, he hasn't lit it up as he so far in his United career, but his positional sense, even kind of attitude and basic game understanding yesterday against Liverpool was a massive cause for concern, particularly when United supporters are looking up at the performance of Gakpo, half the price at the other end of the pitch, and the kind of maturity which he's shown in terms of his level of performance. So just those two questions really in terms of Anthony in particular, his performance levels and the perception amongst Manchester United supporters about him, and also Bruno Fernandes in terms of his going forward as a Manchester United player. Where does he fit into the template of Ten Hag in terms of how Manchester United are going to play?
I think Bruno's best centrally. That said, he played out wide in the Manchester derby and was man of the match. I spoke to someone at a very high level in football on Sunday who just said to me, what on earth is Bruno doing in that position, echoing what you were saying. I think he lost his head. It was pretty embarrassing watching him in that second half. Anthony, he's still in his first season. He can frustrate. I think he's still a young lad. His first season in England. He can excite as well. I'm happy to cut him a bit of slack. The manager knows exactly what it's like from his time at Ajax. If Anthony and the other signings had not been doing well, then I'd be really concerned. But look at the players that Ten Hag's brought in. Casemiro is probably the side's most important player. Lisandro Martinez didn't have a good game on Sunday. None of them did, but he's been really good as well. He's having to patch up his side, Kenny. He's bringing in Sabitzer and Wout Weghorst. Are they Manchester United premium quality players? They're probably not, but he's nowhere near where he wants to be with his squad. And Cody Gakpo, great game on Sunday, but I was hearing Liverpool fans 2 or 3 weeks ago doubting him. It's coming together. It's like when you were at Sunderland in 2006 and Niall Quinn came in. You had a horrific start to the season, didn't you?
Certainly did. That's when I was playing.
Not the first time that's come up this morning.
Yeah, picked up after the injury. Yeah.
No, you're right. I joined your club. A lad called Arnau Riera. He joined from Spain in August 2006. And he's a very close mate of mine. And he came on at Southend in the first game, got man of the match. In his second game, got sent off after 3 minutes.
Wow.
And then Roy Keane came in and said, not really having you, son. So he went to Falkirk. You know, football could change very quickly. But that Sunderland team came up, didn't they? Turned it around completely.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I'm interested, Andy, what you said just about Ten Hag. He knows this isn't he needs to improve. I might have actually mentioned this before, maybe early in the season. Remember, we had a conversation. Obviously, this is a different Manchester United team, the level they're playing at the moment. But do you get? He never comes out publicly, which I understand. Ten Hag and says, "Look, this is where we need to improve. These are the areas of the pitch where I need to go and get a player which takes us to the next level." Do you get a bit of an indication off from where he still feels as if what areas of the pitch he still feels that need to strengthen here? I know generally the squad has to improve in depth, but I'm talking about a starting 11 areas in particular. I mean, there's an argument there for the spine of the pitch. Even centre midfield, centre forward obviously is a given. Even like centre half, the two lads look a great pair in Varane and Martinez, Andy, but you lost one of them for a significant amount of period of time of the season. Have you got a backup at number 3 who could come in, you could trust over the course of a season? Does Maguire or Lindelof fall into that category at the moment?
I'm all right with the centre half positions. I think you've got four players there. I asked Ten Hag himself in December. I had an hour with him with a couple of other journalists in in Cadiz on what was supposed to be a warm weather training camp, but turned into a wet weather training camp. And it was a really impressive character. And he said, Frankie de Jong, of course I'd love Frankie de Jong here. Jude Bellingham, of course I'd love him here. He was pretty honest about it. But the main takeaway was he wanted a number 9 because Cristiano Ronaldo had moved on. It's pretty clear to see that if Manchester United had a world-class number 9, they would be far better. Anthony Martial is injured far too often. Wout Weghorst, for all his attributes and all the hard work that he doesn't score enough goals. So that would be the priority for this summer. I think you might be looking at a right back as well, another central midfielder. I think he's been pretty open about this. You can dissect the team, and we're doing that now. He's got a good spine there, apart from his main centre forward. I think Marcus Rashford is more effective coming off on the left. Even I don't think it has worked as well when he's played centrally, whereas Bruno does much better centrally. So he's finding his way, and he's had a couple of other players. Christian Eriksen missing. He's important for Manchester United. He made more assists than anybody. Jadon Sancho. At some point, you would hope that Jadon Sancho really finds form as being a top talent, because it hasn't happened so far. But I think he's treated him well. But they're going to sign players in the summer. The ownership situation there needs to be some clarity there. He needs to know what he can spend. And the only answer there is going to come from when you know who's in charge of the club. You know, if there are moneyed new owners, suddenly you can go out and buy, well, hey, we're going for Mbappe here. Or if it's same old with the Glazers, then a lot of money has actually been spent, but he's got to be more considered. I've been really impressed by him. I mean, he knows what he wants. He's dealt with the situations well, and he's still in his first season. I'm really comfortable with him as manager. And the coaches around him as well. He's got a good staff there. A real mixture of experience. People like Steve McLaren, who he's not a modern coach, but he knows English football. He knows the press. He knows the humour. Mitchell van der Gaag, a good foil for Erik ten Hag. Someone who's a good manager in his own right. Someone who doesn't kiss his boss's backside, but actually challenges him. Benny McCarthy, good manager in his own right. Did really well as a manager. And there's a good buzz around Manchester United. I speak to people there every single day, and trust me, if you'd have rang me a year ago when Ralph Rangnick was in charge, and you did regularly do, every indication I was getting was not positive. And that was reflected in the results.
Andy, you mentioned Roy Keane there. One of his comments after the match that struck me was, after the game, he was giving out and talking about the United players coming out for the second half at 1-0 down from the tunnel, and kind of laughing and joking with some of the Liverpool players and staff members. Was there something in those comments, like you wanted a bit of vitriol and a bit of hatred between the two clubs during the 90 minutes, or were they comments, do you think, from a bygone era perhaps?
I think it's a really good point, because I'm a Mancunian. I want to see the players go to war at Anfield, and I was brought up on that. Players like Brian Robson and Norman Whiteside going toe-to-toe with Liverpool when Liverpool were the best team, winning everything, getting a draw and thinking it felt like a win. I don't think it's a good look if players are pally-pally with each other. It just isn't. Even if behind the scenes, you know, there's several Man United and Man City players who are really good friends because of their nationality. If you dig back a bit deeper, when Fred was really struggling at Manchester United, the biggest form of support came from Fernandinho from Manchester City. But if you see them all matey at Anfield, I'm not having that. I mean, it's two tribes. They go to war, don't they? And I love the enmity, as you say. I love the rivalry. I'm not into some of the tragedy songs at all. But they're two brilliant football clubs. And Liverpool in the last few years have been so well run, on and off the pitch. They've created a fantastic side. They've won the league. They've got to the European finals. They've won the European Cup. I was in Madrid in 19 in that stadium. Absolutely horrendous night. But I went there in the name of work. I did my job professionally. But they've had a bad year this year. They've got a good manager. I'd love one day for Manchester United and Liverpool to go head and head for a title right away to the end of the season, because we've not seen it. And it's all right, you know, City and Chelsea, whatever. Imagine if that was Manchester United and Liverpool. I just think we're some way off both being in that position. But as we've seen this season, football changes very, very quickly.
Do you still think you're some way off there, Andy? Is there not a kind of just slowly, almost whispers, Chinese whispers around Old Trafford that next year we need to be, we need to be challenging? Not an expectation, maybe so much a demand from the supporters, but almost kind of wishful thinking. Yeah, we're getting close here. Get the signings right in the summer. Why not? We could.
I agree. I agree, because he has raised expectations, and whereas people were saying to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, okay, it's your third season now, serious title challenge, I think next season it is realistic, but we don't know who the owners of Manchester United are going to be. That could really unsettle everything. But you would think if he brings in 2 or 3 players who are as effective as the 3 he's brought in so far this season, if in the best case scenario he has luck with injuries, players like Varane don't get injured, Anthony actually finds consistency, Garnacho gets more consistency with age, Sancho comes to form, Rashford avoids injury. If all them factors are going well, combined with rivals losing, as has happened this year, Chelsea have been a basket case this year, then that's how league titles are won. But Manchester United are not there yet. They're just not. You can see it. I think that term results machine which Klopp used is right. He's done really well to get these results, but I've been at the matches. Leicester cut Manchester United apart in the first half a few weeks ago. West Ham were really effective in that cup game only last week. So Manchester United have been riding the luck a bit.
Of late, yeah.
Can I take the Kenny Cunningham approach here and roll 2 questions into one for you, Andy, if you don't mind? One of them is in relation to, I saw the BBC reporting last night that Bruno Fernandes had come out to insist that he wasn't asking to be subbed off, that he was looking for positional guidance after Lang had come on. But a lot of conversation about the future of Bruno Fernandes, the long-term future of him as captain, number one. And then second piece, just watching again Monday Night Football last night, and Jamie Carragher did an interesting analysis piece on Casemiro, and it wasn't, as you might imagine, especially complimentary about his quality of passing, poor tracking, and a generally sloppy display. So it was very much at odds with everything we'd seen almost from Casemiro up to this United shirt. Just both of those, your thoughts?
A footballer has a bad game shock. Name me one who doesn't. Casemiro has been brilliant for Manchester United, and I did his first interview when he came to Old Trafford, and I saw him a lot in Madrid, and what I was most taken with was the reaction of Manchester United fans. He'll never come, they'll never sell him, he's only coming here for the money, he's past it. Absolute nonsense, every single one of those comments. And I was seeing the same people 2 or 3 months later going, I've got to hold my hands up. That great fan riposte, I've got to hold my hands up. He's proving me wrong. He's proving him wrong because he's one of the best midfielders in the world. He didn't look at Anfield on Sunday. You could have put one of them statues from Anthony Gormley's exhibition on Crosby Beach in the middle, and they would have been more effective than Casemiro. But they were all horrendous. Bruno, probably the worst of a bad bunch on Sunday. I think he's a top player. Do I get frustrated watching him moan and moan and moan? I do. But that's the part of his game which makes him who he is. We've mentioned Roy Keane a couple of times. I did see him have 1 or 2 words with referees where choice words were used. He's moaned as well. And I think Bruno, he takes the risks. He goes for the rewards with them risks. Because he's taking the highest risks with the passes he makes, invariably they're not all going to come off. He's not just tippy-tapping it from side to side. I think he's a top player. I'll never forget what he did when he came in January 2020 when the team were really struggling. He changed the team a lot, like Casemiro has done this season. For that to become a title-winning side, he's got to get them all clicking together. It's got to be the collective. And one thing that Ten Hag's done, and the people at the club who moved players on last season, there are 4 or 5 players there who were a negative influence in that dressing room, and they've gone. They went in 2022. And I get loads of people telling me exactly what it's like inside that dressing room. And if I was hearing negatives, I'd be telling you now. My loyalty is to tell people what is going on there, not to the people telling me information. And trust me, it is in a good place, that. But there's still a good way to go. As there is with this season. Top 4 and a cup would be a good season for Manchester United. I look behind at Liverpool now and I think, 7 points could make it up in no time.
Yeah.
And they're clearly good.
All right.
But we're speaking 25 games in, and Manchester United is 7 clear of Liverpool.
Yeah,
7. Stop saying 7.
A perfect note to leave this on, to leave United fans at least happy. Andy Mitten, United we stand. Thanks a million.
Cheers, all the best.
Cheers, Andy.
Yeah, 8:34 AM, and we should turn our attention to the Formula 1 because it was back at the weekend as well. Bahrain Grand Prix, the season opener, and delighted to say the Formula 1 broadcaster and journalist Chris Medland, who was over in Bahrain, joins us on the line now. Morning, Chris. How are things?
Well, not too bad. I'll admit that that United-Liverpool game meant that it overshadowed a lot went on in Bahrain, which I don't think many people were complaining about, given the dominance of Max Verstappen on Sunday.
Yeah, well, listen, Chris, if you listen to George Russell's comments, apparently the season's over. Max Verstappen has the title won already. It was a bit of a procession, wasn't
it? At the front, it was. It's not over, for starters, and it's definitely not going to be a Red Bull season that they win every single race. So I'm happy to say that right now, even though, if it comes back to bite me in December, then so be it. But George Russell said they should win every race with the performance they've got over a season. I mean, we've seen it when even Mercedes have dominated. You get incidents, you get crazy races, you get some real curveballs that just, if a team can't handle it, someone else gets a win. What was great is behind Red Bull, there's a proper battle between three teams in Mercedes and Ferrari, which are names everyone will expect, and now Aston Martin, which is the big shock, with Fernando Alonso in there. So that was brilliant to see, and that's breathed a bit of new life into the rest of the racing, even if Red Bull had it a bit easy on Sunday.
It's mad because that was probably the drive of the day. Fernando Alonso in the Aston Martin, as you say, I think it's his 99th podium with 5 different teams. Like, he hasn't won a race since 2013, and everyone's thinking when he moves teams at the end of last year, well, this could go badly. But in Aston Martin, he seems to have found a perfect fit, Chris. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it's a bit of a running joke, and with no offence meant to Alonso, but that he's made bad career choices in the past. And sometimes it's been a bit unfair on him because it's looked a bit too long-term and beyond the point he would have been with a team. But he left Ferrari when things were going bad to go to McLaren back in the V6 era when Mercedes were dominating, because he thought McLaren with Honda were the only way anyone would beat Mercedes. That went terribly, and Ferrari got to winning ways. They didn't win a championship, but they got back to winning ways. But he'd long since left then. Obviously left F1, came back with Alpine's, been in the midfield. I think the one thing was Aston was the gamble that was worth taking. With the money they have, the resources they have, the amount of investment they're putting into their team personnel, that someday it would click. If anyone was going to make it to the front, it would be Aston. But no one expected it to be this season. And the performance shown was very, very impressive. There are going to be circuits that really suit that car even more than Bahrain did. They look quick in pre-season, quick throughout the weekend. I think we could see Alonso getting a pole position or two in the right circumstances, definitely a win or two in the right circumstances, because he's someone who comes alive when there's a chance of it. He's on 32 wins at the moment and after number 33. And in the past, Alonso would always play it down because he liked to kind of exceed expectations and make it seem like he'd done something miraculous. So he would have been saying, oh no, there's no chance I would win a race this year. Red Bull are too far clear. But even Alonso himself on Sunday said, yeah, if we're starting as the second quickest team, there's probably going to be a race or two that comes our way. So I reckon I'll win one, which is refreshing to hear from him. He's just mellowed in his 40s, because we've got to remember that as well. He's 41 now. But yeah, a great story that he's got a competitive car at this stage of his career.
And he had the couple of scraps on track as well, overtaking battles with the two Mercedes cars, which was great to see and adds a bit of excitement to the whole thing as well. On Mercedes, Hamilton 5th, Russell 7th. Look, they're 50 seconds behind Max Verstappen at the front. Are you concerned? Are you encouraged if you're a Mercedes fan? Or how are you feeling after the weekend and with Jeddah to come in 2 weeks?
I'm actually massively concerned if I'm a Mercedes fan. I interviewed Toto Wolff on the grid before the race, and he said, look, we've got it wrong. We need to change our car concept. We need to completely rethink everything we're doing. And that was before we'd even seen the first race play out. That was they knew from their data, from the peak performance they had available, even if they weren't always getting out the car, that it just wasn't ever going to be good enough to get to Red Bull levels. And to know that very quickly, they gambled on this concept where they had unique side pods that are very, very slim compared to everyone else. Insisted over the winter they were sticking with that because they saw that it could work, but also that it wasn't the big differentiator between them and other teams. And now instantly they've admitted, oh, actually, no, it won't work, which is surprising to that early for them to say that. But I guess the encouragement you take from it is, okay, they must have had a plan in mind that if it didn't hit certain targets, what they were going to do next. Because they've switched so quickly. They're not trying to defend themselves and say, oh, we'll keep working at it. They're like, nope, we're going to scrap this. We're going to bin it and go somewhere else with what we want to do. So A long road ahead, I think, for Mercedes, but maybe an exciting one in trying to turn it around completely mid-season within the budget cap, within the kind of restrictions that everyone has right now. It'll be tough to do, but it'll be fascinating to see if and when they bring out essentially what will be the closest thing to a new car they can during the year. So, it'll be fun to watch when that happens. But until then, it's going to be pretty tough going, I think. They're probably going to be third or fourth quickest team for quite a while.
We saw Mattia Binotto pay the price at Ferrari. Obviously, Chris, not that long ago. Has Toto escaped a lot of the heat around this? I mean, he's a powerful figure, obviously, within the sport, but I mean, they've lost their sort of absolute grip on the sport relatively quickly.
They have, but no, he's in a different position at Mercedes in the sense that he helped set the team up. He's a shareholder within the team. It's only kind of a third owned by Mercedes' parent company, so he kind of owns part of the racing team that exists. And you've got to think of what he did create for a team that came back in 2010, took a little while to find its feet, and then from 2014 onwards was dominating. And even now, it's still a front runner, just a good half a second or so off Red Bull, who have been very impressive. But they're in the right kind of mix that you want to be in to build on. So I don't think he's going to come under too much pressure for too long. I think some of his personnel might, who designed the car, but the culture he's always created there is that everyone kind of, there's no one person to blame. Everyone works together. Does have a big pool of engineers and designers that are pretty big names within that team. So I don't think there'll be actually radical overhaul too much within the personnel. It will just be about the car they've designed. And it'll be really, really interesting to see, because it's probably Toto's biggest test is how he deals with this ongoing failure. Last year could have been a one-off if they got it right at the start of the season and were fighting for wins straight away. Up to then, obviously, everything had been on an upward trajectory. For the fact that they're not anymore, it's a totally different challenge for him to turn that around and keep the attitudes right, keep it positive within Mercedes. So it will be something interesting to watch the way he deals with it, but I don't think he'll come under too much pressure from anyone above him, because there's not many really people that can call themselves that for him to go.
It was a tale of what went wrong for Ferrari last year, Chris, in many races. And look, there were mistakes that they made in race strategy, famously a lot of times across the course of the season. And it was the same old tale at the weekend. Although, Charles Leclerc, speaking afterwards, he felt like they had a car that certainly could compete for at least a podium.
Yeah, I mean, Leclerc should have finished on the podium, I think, as quick as Alonso was, and it would have been fascinating to see Alonso trying to close him down. Leclerc was a pretty comfortable third when he retired. The big worry there was reliability. It was the big thing that Fred Vasseur, the new team principal, who replaced Mattia Binotto, the big thing he said he wanted to improve over the winter was reliability. He said this car, if we could have run it at 100% last year at every race, it would have been far more competitive. But they had to kind of dial it back because they had a lot of reliability issues. And in the first race, you get a reliability problem that takes your lead car out. That is concerning, and it did annoy Leclerc, I think. In terms of strategy, I'd say they largely got it right. In the race, their strategy was fine. But in qualifying, Leclerc actually only did one run in Q3, wasn't on pole, knew he might lose another position, which he did, so he ended up third on the grid, but didn't do a second run to save a set of new tyres, used them at the start of the race, and it got him ahead of Perez and back into second and a bit more competitive. So it was kind of a longer term view, which was a bit disappointing on Saturday, because we thought actually Leclerc had a shot at getting on pole, but they were thinking, right, this is our best way of running the race tomorrow. And it did pay off in that sense until his problem. So there was some encouraging signs. The car over one lap is quick. And what was interesting is Vasseur said, if it's quick over one lap, it can be quick over a race distance. There's no magic difference between the two. It's just about finding the right balance to extract it. And he's pretty confident that Ferrari can get closer to Red Bull, but it will mean nothing if they can't finish the races. So yeah, that was the concerning aspect, was the reliability.
Just one final one from me, Chris. You're talking about encouraging signs. We certainly want encouraging signs when it comes to competitiveness this year. Can you just briefly explain the aerodynamic research and the time that a team gets in order to conduct aerodynamic research? It's proportion to a team's success. So the worse a team is, the more time they have for this research, essentially. So is that going to level the playing field and maybe give us a bit of a tighter race this year?
Absolutely. It's one of the best things I think Formula One's done. It's almost like the draft system in American sports, that the worst team gets the most opportunity to catch up. It doesn't mean you definitely will. You've got to make the most of that opportunity. And the worst teams tend to have the worst facilities, so that they've got to work hard at it. But compared to Red Bull, the likes of Mercedes and Ferrari have more time in the wind tunnel, more time to develop their car aerodynamically or try and work out how to make it quicker. The big one again is Aston Martin. They finished 7th in the championship last year, so they've got way more time compared to Red Bull to work on it. Red Bull also had a penalty for breaching the cost cap last year. That gives them less time on top of their normal penalty for being the winners. So yeah, there's every opportunity for others to close that gap during the season. And something Christian Horner said to me yesterday, or Sunday as it was, losing my days, that they had to be conservative a little bit and make sure they had a good quick car from the start of the season and take no risks with it, because they couldn't afford to get it wrong. They didn't have the development time to try and work their way out of any problems. So they're kind of limited slightly in that with what they've done with their car, whereas all the others can kind of take some more risks to try and make bigger steps. And that'll be fascinating to see, because it did close the grid up in many ways, even just over the winter. All 10 teams were covered by just over 0.6 of a second in the first part of qualifying. Nobody could take it easy in Q1 on Saturday, which is great to see. And all 10 teams think they can score points. So the field has closed up, but you still always have a first and a last. And I think the biggest gap of any is first to second at the moment. So hopefully a few of those chasing pack can reel Red Bull in.
All right, we will leave it there. Chris Medland, thanks a million for jumping on.
Thank you very much for having me, guys. Cheers.
Thanks a lot, cheers. The fact that the time of the wind tunnel has been compared with the draft system.
I love that.
Time of the wind tunnel.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Draft.
Oh, sorry.
Slow burner there, lads. Yeah.
Way over my head.
Coblow Lane used to be the wind tunnel back in the day. Millwall's old ground.
Yeah.
The wind used to rattle through there all the way.
Great old ground name. JD, John Duggan, good morning to you.
Adrian, Shane, Kenny, how are you all doing?
All good.
Really good. How are you keeping?
Not too bad, thanks.
We had one comment in here, by the way, and I'm sure you're going to potentially touch on the League of Ireland from last night. Jared O'Connell saying, unbelievable match last night, Rovers against City. Crowley with the goal of the season contender. Just inside the circle in the...
yeah, I was watching, it's a bit like David Beckham against Wimbledon, wasn't it?
And further in.
When I was watching the League of Ireland Twitter stream about 7 o'clock this morning, I had 105,000 views. And that's what you want. I'm sure it's a lot more now. That's what you want if you're looking to promote the game,
If only we had somebody, JD, who was close to the action when Beckham put the ball in from the halfway line.
Yeah, the actual halfway line goal.
Describe it in sort of great detail for us. Anyway, look, I'm sure we'll have somebody in down the track.
It's the greatest halfway line goal there's ever been, isn't it? Sorry, the most famous.
Just because it didn't seem to... Look,
because it was the first, wasn't it?
It didn't feel like it was a thing.
Only because it was the first.
The late great John Motson on commentary.
What was the follow-up?
Xabi Alonso, I remember. I think he scored 2. Thinking about it now for Liverpool.
Do you know what
the goal at Luton?
Naeem in the European Cup Winners' Cup final.
What was the chant, JD?
Naeem from the halfway line.
He was nowhere near the halfway line. I looked back at it before we came on air this morning. Yeah. He was like the same way Crowley was like nowhere near the halfway line.
What was the chant, John? Naeem from somewhere close to the halfway line.
That's right. From the edge. But
he was over towards
centre circle.
The touch line. Yeah, it was still.
Good distance, he was. It was a good distance. It was just not the halfway line. Yeah. I like you. I've spent the last 30 years in my head every now and then when I see a goal from the halfway line.
It's an anti-Arsenal chant as well.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. What was the follow in the dressing room afterwards? Was there a bit of Neil Sullivan? Was there a bit of people jumping in, or what was the...
No, he would have got a bit of ribbon during the week, to be honest, because it's never good luck, the goalkeeper heading back towards his goal when he knows the ball.
Scrambling.
Yeah, he's scrambling. It's almost like token gesture. I think that was token gesture stuff. He knew he was kind of...
he had no blame, though, had he? In hindsight, there was no blame to be apportioned in his direction.
Very difficult. Even in the modern game now, I'd suggest, in terms of that sweeper keeper, that high starting position now of a goalkeeper, I'd imagine it's actually easier. It's an easier skill now to execute. Some of the keepers I played would never leave their bloody goal line.
Remember who you're marking?
Well, it wasn't Beckham. He would have been over the right side.
Brian McClare.
Giggs, I'd imagine, might have been playing left wing.
Cantona,
at that time, yeah.
Frightening.
Yeah, you did quite a game that day, Giggs.
Hey, in your pocket, check your pocket for him.
Not.
Yeah, so we had like I said, Mad Rovers haven't won a game yet out of 4 games in the League of Ireland Premier Division season. Derry City top, 4-0 win at UCD. Jordan McInniff scoring twice. Bohemians 3 wins out of 4. A 3-1 victory at home to Drogheda United. Sligo Rovers playing with 10 men for 70 minutes against Pats, but they still won 2-1. Dundalk 2-1 winners over Shelburne. So a strange start to the season for Shamrock Rovers, who've yet to keep a clean sheet. I presume you've talked about it, but it's kind of really... It's a real good time now for analysis writers and a week-long trawl of all the best sports writers, like writing about Man United after the capitulation against Liverpool, the 7-0 defeat, like Eric Ten Hag asking his players to be quiet and listen to the Liverpool celebrations, or bringing them for training yesterday morning, and then trying to, I think, boost their confidence. So will Bruno Fernandes be captain for long on the pitch with Harry Maguire in exile? And will Harry Kane, who's been linked again with Tottenham, move away from there to Manchester United, be going to Manchester United this summer, because...
Who are you lads giving the captaincy to? Like, we were kind of speaking...
or Varane, probably.
Yeah. Casemiro doesn't have probably the language.
I always think that I couldn't be one of these people. I generally think your captain, should not be a centre half a lot of the time.
What's wrong with the goalkeeper being a captain? Like Peter Schmeichel did it for years.
My instinct is no, I have to say.
Why though? You can see the whole pitch.
Because De Gea can flit in and out of form, and number one thing you want is your captain to be Mr. Reliable every week, so to be an element of that.
It's been consistent enough though this season.
I think there's a communication element to it as well. Generally your captain, you're looking for him to take responsibility at various moments in the game, just in terms of seeing pictures and actually giving information to people, and just actually basically communicating with people. And just that's difficult for a goalkeeper. I know we're talking about a high starting position, but then it's not that high when you're standing next to your centre half or centre midfielder. You need to get information. So I know it's only a small point. For me it's still significant. I'll be like you. For me, it wouldn't naturally lean towards a goalkeeper. Problem with Varane is just him being on the pitch. I don't think you want a situation as a manager. You give the captaincy to a player, and he's going to be on the pitch for half the games. He's going to miss.
Well, he's going to be on the pitch.
So then you're passing the armband on to somebody else. It's getting. So I'd actually probably lean centre half. I'd be leaning maybe towards Martinez, even Luke Shaw. If I was looking at one of the defenders, I might be one of those two.
But Varane's captain France. You even saw, I was very impressed by him at full time at Anfield at the weekend, where there's players walking down the tunnel and Varane is screaming at them, get back here, and he's pointing towards the United fans, as in go down and clap the fans for at least sticking the 90 minutes out. So I think he has the leadership qualities.
It's showy.
Yeah. Well, no, it's a bit showy.
I'm cringing again at that one.
No, but I mean,
that's a little bit me bringing attention on yourself. For the reasons that you're saying there. It was great, Varane. You're kind of, for me, that's almost embarrassing the players a little bit. And I was never one for, I've got to be honest with you, going and you're embarrassed actually to go in front of your fans. Not a lack of respect.
You have to do it though, don't you?
Oh, but why do you have to do it? Because it's show. Because you have to be seen as perception. You have to be seen. You're gutted. You know what I mean? You've let the fans down. Don't think you have to be visibly
What's the reaction when you go down to the fans as well? Like, what do you expect?
You're probably going to
some of them will clap you, some of them will boo you. But I was at Old Trafford last year for the United 0 Liverpool 5 game, and you were thinking at the end of it, this is Solskjaer's last game for sure. But as it turned out, it wasn't. But I'm watching Ronaldo at full time, and he's walking straight down the tunnel, and I know a lot of United fans were doing the same, thinking, what is he doing? He's supposedly a leader. So I think seeing someone like Varane hyping up his teammates to go down
an element of that's fair enough, because there's an embarrassment about it, and like, I'm not going to embarrass you and myself.
Tickets aren't cheap to matches, lads. Fans have spent money on these tickets, and to not even go down and recognise that they're there, and that some of them at least have stuck out the 90 minutes on probably one of the worst days in United's history is disgraceful. I thought Varane's actions were actually quite strong. No?
I take your point about his captaincy material, and he looks as if he's well respected in the dressing room, and if they can keep him on the pitch, I think it's a fair call. I just feel as if his injury situation potentially is a problem. I'm never a fan of that in terms of passing the armband around the dressing room week to week. So I think it'll be interesting how he sees it going forward, but I'd be very surprised if Bruno's the answer. I don't even think he'd be in the start. If he gets those players in that he's talking about, I'd be surprised in the starting 11.
We'd about 3 years of COVID and nobody in the studio, and this kind of feels like a TV setting. Even TV scenarios. And I'm the guy. Remember Adam Partridge used to be in the corner. It was on the Day Today or whatever, and he used to go goal.
JD, you're no Alan Partridge.
No.
What have you got for us?
Well, it's interesting about you talk about that, because Spurs have been a little bit uncomfortable with Hugo Lloris as captain, given he's been so in and out of form. Chelsea against Borussia Dortmund tonight, 1-0. Lead for the Germans after the first leg of that Champions League last 16 tie. They've won 10 games in a row in all competitions, Dortmund. Chelsea have not won back-to-back matches since October, and obviously the pressure's on Graham Potter, because the fans haven't warmed to him. Whatever about the fact that he's dealing with all these players that half of them he probably didn't sign or was part of, but I think the fans being on his back hasn't helped either. Sam Bennett in 5th place in general classification, entering the 3rd stage of Paris-Nice. Today's stage of time trial in Dampierre-en-Berly. But so Chelsea's the big fish. How long is he going to last, Kenny, Graham Potter?
Am I allowed to talk now?
I'm talking anytime you want, Kenny, as you know.
He's going to be a bit jumpy there, John. Got told off. Because I was back in school. I did talk a bit in the classroom as well, John, to be honest with you.
I can imagine, yeah.
Sorry, John, it was the Chelsea question, was it?
Yeah.
You immediately moved on from your Tottenham reference.
Is Graham Potter getting the boot if they lose tonight?
I think he might be. I think it helped in the result of the week. And if he'd have lost the weekend going into this game, I think so. Never felt he was in a huge amount of trouble. I take him at their word, the owners, when they say, look, we've made a commitment to this manager. We feel as if potentially he can develop the squad, his coaching capabilities. So I actually kind of buy into that. But that said, they're businessmen at the end of the day. And I feel as if at any point they feel as if, hold on, we've made the wrong decision here. I don't think they'll hang around. I think he'll go, but I don't think we're at that point. I've always felt with Potter, he's got to show a little bit between now and the end of the season. I think he's got massive issues in there. You mentioned there, John, player recruitment, the numbers that they've brought in such a short period. That is tough to manage. One of the most difficult things for a manager. 30 players rolling onto the training ground.
Oh, ridiculous!
Every morning, right? What we doing this morning? I want to be involved in this. What do you mean? I'm training with. We've got to go and train over there, not with the main group, and trying to manage all of that. That is very, very probably the toughest thing
30
he's going to have to face. I just think he needs to show something. I'm not saying guaranteeing Champions League football and like that, but indicators between now and the end of the season that this is coming together. Trust me, I can get us where you want to be.
All right, thanks, JD. Fair play.
All right, lads.
5 to 9. It's OTB AM. You're watching with loads to come. Tommy Rooney, by the way, will be coming on in just a little bit to give us his updated power rankings after the football at the weekend. We're live with Gillette Labs. Get the ultimate shave or your money back. Neon Night edition available now. And we've Vinny Perth live in studio. Another round of League of Ireland games last night, so he's live in studio with us next. Before all of that, Tom English of the BBC on Scotland's expectations against Ireland next weekend.
They have a chance against Ireland if they were to beat Ireland and then beat Italy. Then that's 4 wins, and they've never managed 4 wins in the Six Nations before, so that would be extraordinary. A lot of work to do before then for them. I don't think, although you'll find a lot of Scottish rugby fans who are loving what they're seeing from the Scotland team, but I think you'd have to search long and hard to find someone who believes that they will win. Everyone thinks that they can win on Sunday, Scotland. You won't find too many people, I think, here who believes that they will win. But they're loving what they're seeing. The team is playing really, really exciting rugby. And I think everyone at 19-0 down after 19 minutes in Paris, I think everyone's saying, okay, this is when the fun stops. 2 wins out of 2. First time since 1996. 19-0 down now. This is Armageddon. And yet, 50 minutes later, it's 25-21. So that 50 minutes in Paris, Scotland won it 21-6. And we're completely on top. And actually, they scored 3 tries in the day. They had really, really good chances to score another 3. So if you're trying to draw positives from a defeat, there were plenty for Scotland in Paris.
Full interview with Tom English available up on our YouTube channel. You can head up there to have a look at that, and we'll have plenty more build up to the game as well as we work through the week. Before all of that, Vinny Perth, good morning to you.
Morning, how are you doing?
Welcome to studio. How are you keeping?
All good, yeah. Yeah, just about defrosted from last night.
Yeah, Kenny was saying the same. Same. Were you regretting
coming out coppers about half 2 in the morning, Vinny? Or we'll be talking.
Picking you up, yeah.
A few Jaeger bombs.
Were you regretting your match choice last night after seeing what happened out in Tala?
It was, because I drove past Tala Stadium to head into Dailyman Park, and I just thought it'd be a comfortable win for Rovers, and I thought balls be tested by Drogheda, and I would have rather been in Tala Stadium. That 4-all looked quite an entertaining game.
Another good show of strength from Bowles last night. You were there, I presume, to sort of run the rule over their title credentials. And
I don't think they're ready to win a league yet, and I don't think they claim that. Mind you, as players and staff, I'd like to think they're trying to get as close to it. We've always seen sort of freak years, but just building nicely. It's been steady. I know there was a lot of sort of turmoil early of last season, or in the middle of last season, when they changed manager, but they are the one club, or one of the clubs, that have been structured about how they've done their business. They've got a lot of their business done early. They look like a settled League of Ireland team, and that's a strange thing to say, because when I look at someone like Sligo, albeit had a good result last night, they brought in 10 players, 7 of them from outside of the league, where Bowles is like sort of a lot of League of Ireland players, albeit 2 centre halves are from Poland, but I just mean structurally they're in a good place. A lot of their bench of young lads coming through the system, and they look in a good place, Bowles, and they were quite comfortable last night in their win. And another great goal by Jordan Flores, brilliant free kick.
think all they want now is a Jonathan Afolabi goal.
He
keep them happy.
To be honest with you, he had about 4 or 5 really good chances last night, and he probably should have scored. He played quite well, but it's funny. Things are going quite well for Bohs. They'd be happy enough, but there's just in goal, Talbot made another mistake, lacking a little bit of confidence, and Johnny just needs a goal just to settle himself down. He's probably trying a little bit too hard, and probably should have scored. Yeah.
How did the young boy do? I noticed I was down just on the lads was down in Talca Friday night. Young McMahon came off the bench and impressed. He had a little cameo there, seeing a little bit of him prior to that. Looks a very clever little operator. I noticed he got a start last night in central midfield. How did he do? Yeah,
he was really good, and I think the best thing, and you'll know this, it wasn't that he was outstanding or he was the best player on the pitch. He just looked like he belonged to that level. For a young boy, that's a big thing you can say about fellas that come into teams. As I said, nothing where you'd really go, oh, he, bits of skill or anything, but just looked like he belonged at that level. And when we done the sort of pre-season show here, he's one of the players we picked out, myself and Richie, to say he's one to watch. And I think just letting him play and just grow into it, and I think he's a real star for the future.
He looks strong in that central midfield area. Funny, I mean, Flores, he played left back last night, normally a central midfielder, but they got obviously Keats come back. Keith Buckley, I think will help in terms of personality, character. There's a lad there as well, in the last season you would have seen him play, Vinny, like James Clark hasn't actually started this season. Really impressed me towards the tail end of last season. So they're looking well, that kind of central midfield area, kind of the engine room with the team. They're looking quite strong.
And that's the point. James Clark's a great example of it. He's a League of Ireland player, played with Drogheda, a really good player, and but Adam MacDonald gives them huge energy. And you know what, in our league, got to have energy, and Adam was left out last night with a bit of an injury Friday, Monday, but we put Buckley back into midfield and he had that same energy. And you know what, there's a lot to be said for legs in the modern game. Got to get around the pitch, got to get your tackles in. Buckley, Adam MacDonald give them that, and then they've got this sort of the flair players like James Akatunda was brilliant last night in the number 10 role. Don't know whether he played there in Chelsea the night, but he was really good in that position. So that's what I'm saying, there's a bit of cohesion about that Bohs team, and there's a lot to like about them.
Surprised Derry let Akantunda go, but then I suppose their recruitment has been fairly decent since the season ended as well. But he's a quality player.
Yeah, he is. I would say, in fairness, he didn't set the world alight at Derry, so you've got to. Some people just sue certain clubs, but just last night he was really good. Whether it was the first time I'd seen him in a bit of a while, but last night he was excellent. But Derry aren't short of players in that position. I mean, Patching and McElhenney can play there, just to name two, so they're not short in that position in any way, shape.
Reading some of the reports this morning, Vinny, the euphemism about it being a long season for Drogheda was, I'm assuming, sort of other words for they're expected to be thereabouts in the race at the bottom.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be a difficult season for them, particularly when you go Friday, Monday. Remember, Drogheda are probably one of the only teams now that are technically part-time. They train in the evenings, and it can be difficult for their players going that Friday, Monday. And they started the game quite well. They deserve to be 1-1. Got a really good goal, albeit a goalkeeper mistake, and a couple of big chances to take the lead. And you know yourself, if you take the lead, that fills your lungs, and you'll go on and you'll fight. Particularly, as I said, Friday, Monday game, but they ran out of steam a little bit. And the young lad on loan from Lincoln, a guy called Draper, one to watch, 18-year-old. He is a proper player, young player. Lincoln have sent him over for some game time, and he was outstanding for them last night. He's got a good goal, good player.
Those type of players become important, didn't they, for the last number of years in particular. I'm never a great fan, really, in terms of seeing too many of these short-term deals. Players coming over, and then popping back to the UK. You always feel as if, in terms of trying to build a team, Vinny know better than me, in terms of coach and management, in terms of building a team, and you want players fully committed in terms of professional and short to medium-term contracts to build around, but it's hard to be overly critical. If you get a little jewel, like Vinny, I haven't seen that lad playing it, but you get some one or two of them in your team.
Me, you love him. You would hate to mark him, but like we say, Evan Ferguson's a big unit, isn't he? This guy is 18, same age, and he's, if not bigger than him, stronger looking, and so it's he's one to watch, one to keep an eye on.
Did you catch any of the highlights from Tala?
Yeah, I did. I just watched the goals this morning.
Yeah. By the way, we should say Aaron Bulger was obviously, there was a long delay when he was taken off last night, and Cork City tweeted last night, said that he'd regained consciousness and been monitored in hospital, so we wish him the best. Obviously it resulted in a long delay there that I think it was 10 minutes of added time at the end of the game.
Yeah, so I was watching for updates because obviously it was all the other games had finished, and I'm like, oh, the ref's doing one here, isn't he? He's giving Rovers a chance, but obviously there was a huge head clash with Trevor Clark, and that's why Sean Hoare scored 7 minutes into injury time, and I think there was 13-14 played in the end. So, I think Stephen Bradley will be a little bit worried this morning. You can't get away from that. Like, I still expect sitting here that Rovers will win the league, and probably a little bit comfortably, to be honest with you. I still think they're that good. They've got players that are, and a squad that's capable of doing it. But as I said a couple of times, I think this is a great Rovers team, but I want to see them tested to see are they. Most good teams have someone, whether it's over the years, whether it's Chelsea driving or Arsenal driving that great United team on, or vice versa, Liverpool, City. I'd like to see Derry really test this Rovers team, and this is the start of the test for them. So
I think they will. I know it's early in the season, like, but obviously I saw Derry last night, but you just get a sense of they're kind of ready. You look at the squad depth there. Even kind of last night, McGonigal was on the bench. They brought Colin Whelan. Just talking centre forwards here, King Cavan, I think, actually started the game. Ollie O'Neill came off the bench, kind of left wing, real quality. McElhenney didn't start. Duffy, Patching played with Diallo in midfield. They could have put a pairing of Adam O'Reilly in there, Dummigan, no real drop off there either. So yeah, I think Rovers have it all to do. I agree with you in terms of the quality in the Rovers team. It's absolutely phenomenal, but I think this Derry team is best place it's ever been to put a challenge.
Best part of the Derry team, is arguably the best four players: McElhenney, Duffy, McJanet, their captain, and Dummigan was probably the best player in the league last year. Gaffney deservedly won it, because particularly when your team wins the league. For them, and he looked after McElhenney. There's a lot of injuries with Patrick. You've got to be careful with him, particularly early in the season. To leave him out yesterday and win comfortably.
And not only that, but Jordan McInnes. I saw Jordan Max play a few. He was on Shells at loan a couple of times, and you could see he has a bit of talent there, but still young, a bit of consistent in terms of. But I saw a different type of player last night. That's in the space of 6 months. He had a long
period at Arsenal, didn't he, when he was younger, and so was over a back loan.
Yeah, he was a real star of the future, and again, it didn't settle at Shells for whatever reason. But the Derry boys like to be in around Derry. When you manage them, they're good lads. They like their home cooking. The Derry women are in control. Let's be.
I thought you were just going to leave it at the Derry women there.
They rule the roost. So
Derry
once they're
girls.
in around home, they're in a better place.
To win the league, though, Vinny, you have to have a fortress at home, and Tallaght Stadium has always been a fortress. But to be conceding 4, I think it was the first time in the league in 5 years they've conceded 4 at home. Rovers last night, that's surely a concern.
You know who scored 4 against them? No.
This is going to be a Dundalk one, isn't it?
Maybe. But anyway, look.
10 goals conceded in the entirety
I thought you were going to impress us there, Vinny. Give us the answer. That would have been impressive.
I'll leave it with Shane for a minute.
You put it past
You'd need more than a minute.
Building on Shane's questions, because it surprised me earlier on when you said that you expected them to win it at a canter. Now I'm paraphrasing, but 10 goals conceded in the entirety of last season at home, and 6 in the last 2, is it?
Yeah, but it's very early to you've got to give you've got to give context. I was at the Derry Rovers game on Friday, and Derry, to be fair, won like a champions do, not playing that well. But Rovers were probably, particularly in the first half, better team. Ran out of a little bit of ideas late on the game, and Derry managed the game quite well to win the game 2-1. But there's no way I come away from that going Derry are ahead of Rovers. I still think Rovers in a better position, which seems a bit strange now after 4 games and Rovers have really struggled. But the alarm bells will have to be going off this morning. You've just conceded 4 goals, and they're 4 bad goals to concede. And not just that, the 2 goals against Derry on Friday, one was from a corner. It was a brilliant counter-attack by Derry from Rovers' corner. And the second goal, they cut them open really. Now, they've been missing centre-halves, but they were more or less full strength last night. So there is concerns. I'm just being honest where I think they are, Rovers, at the moment. But this is the bit of pressure that, as a manager now, you've got to experience probably for the first time. All the staff there will have to experience a little bit of people asking questions. Some fans won't be happy with the start, and That's the challenge, and the wheels can come off very quickly in a club like that. But they can also go on a run and win 4 or 5 games very quickly.
There's probably a bit of, when you talk about the alarm bells going off tomorrow, there's probably a bit of Stephen Bradley that can use the eventual outcome last night as a bit of a positive, almost like we were absolutely in the sticky stuff and we get out of it. But the details after that, looking at, I know that you haven't seen the game, the full 100 minutes of the game, whatever it was. But the details after that, like, what does he fix? How does he fix it?
And Kenny will probably know this more than anyone, particularly being a centre half. You fix your defensive side of the game first. It's probably, as a coach, it's the easiest things to fix. The easiest session you can do is to say to the team, we're not going to concede goal. We've got to start with that. You look what Klopp is doing at Liverpool at the moment. That's what he's trying to fix. And in many ways, that's the easiest thing, as in it's easy to coach. Probably the hardest part of coaching is being inventive and coming up with different ideas, getting your full-backs here, there and everywhere to create chances. So that part is fixable. I think they'll have the 3 centre-halves probably available from Friday onwards. Sean Hoare came off the bench again. So they'll be set defensively from Friday onwards. And that's why when I see that back 3 going back together from Friday onwards, I see them building a little bit of consistency. But it's a tough little run of games. I think they play Shells away, Pats at home and Dundalk away. So that's a little bit of pressure, like, already, and that's what the big job's all about. Like, it's a little bit like that. That's what
amazing,
winning league's about.
Week in football, as we all know, it's amazing. Look at even like Dundalk, slow start to the season, then they pitch up a few days ago, put 5 past Pats again, win again, back to back wins. Cork probably the same. A difficult start, losing at home to kind of Bows, packed down there in Turner's Cross, and you're thinking, oh, bad start. Like, searching maybe for get beaten dirty, understandably. But then bounce back with a win against UCD, and obviously took a bit of confidence for that and took it into the game last night. Get a point there, and you can only imagine what that'll do for the confidence of the Cork players. So in the space of kind of 3-4 days, you know what I mean? Well, it's a total transformation.
On Cork, so they go 4-2 up, and then it seems like they just they sit back. I mean, again, if you're Colin Healy this morning, and I see some of the quotes from him, he must be, I was going to say he must be pulling his hair out, but he's, I'm sure, very frustrated about that outcome and not having that killer instinct to just close it off.
Yeah, the winner in Colin would be disappointed at come the end of the game. But I imagine, and the sort of reports and the bits I've seen on the scouting app I have, is it would bring on the Alamo a little bit. So, you sort of, it wasn't 7 minutes into injury time because of that delay a little bit in the 97 minute. You knew, Colin would have been realistic. 83rd, 84th minute, there was probably another 15-20 minutes to play at that stage because of the injury that came. So
I'd be very surprised if Colin was in that dressing room after the game, like talking down the players, being overly critical of how they let a 2-goal lead slip. I would have thought it'd been the opposite in terms of, well, what a performance, lads. Let's take confidence from this. We've come to Rovers, the league champions, and show that we can compete. Speaking about kind of management in terms of what approach to take, we're talking about obviously Ten Hag after the game, how he addressed the Manchester United players in the moment, just kind of choosing the right word. So I would have thought the talk would have been very positive in the Cork dressing room last night, despite the fact they leaked.
Yeah, and I thought on Friday night playing UCD was a big game for them because you hadn't picked up a point. They were at home to UCD, and if they hadn't picked up a point against UCD or won, it could have been a long season. We talk about confidence, momentum, whatever that right word is. But for Cork now, 4 points in 2 games over that weekend is huge for them. It's a real platform.
What's the atmosphere like in Damien Duff's dressing room at the moment, do you reckon? So 4 points from 4 games, and then Shamrock Rovers to visit this Friday night as well. So they don't get any easier.
Yeah, it's interesting because there was a bit of argy-bargy in that game after it as well, and sometimes that can galvanise you, don't get me wrong, but it was that'd be a disappointing one. I believe they were very good for the first half. Damien set them up and tactically very, very strong. I think what you're seeing with Damien's team is tactically on the pitch they're very strong. Players know what they're doing. They're just short of 1 or 2 really good players to elevate them to another level. I would say he's finding it frustrating knowing Damien, and spent 2 years when doing a pro licence. I imagine he's not a pleasant person to be around this morning until he gets that out of his system. But it's a great game to play Rovers in for him. He'll enjoy that as well. Don't get me wrong. So sometimes you want a big game to follow a defeat. It actually helps you motivate the players.
You were making that point about United earlier as well, that you almost need it Chelsea or Spurs, they have them after the international break, but you almost need a big game to come.
Just to get it, to wash it out.
Yeah, exactly. Get it out of the system. It's probably a fair point.
Yeah, probably atmosphere as well. Maybe help Shells Friday night. It was a little bit of that last week against Bows. Great atmosphere down there. You just feel as if Duffers, he enjoys that. He kind of feeds off that a little bit in his team. Vinny's right. The Duffers' defensive structure there is very solid. Him and Joey O'Brien, they're really well set up out of possession of the football. The challenge for them going forward is, as an attacking force, how many chances can we create? Probably don't create too many clear-cut chances. I think that's why Matty Smith came
and Boyd. Big Boyd. They're not playing at the moment. That's huge.
Yeah, to give them that bit more of a cutting edge higher up the pitch. Always that happy balance between defensively sound and offering an attacking threat as well. Every manager searching for that.
What's the, like, he comes across from the very first interviews he did before he came into the Shelbourne job as a very intense character and somebody who really sort of drives for success and has the hunger and clear passion for it and all that. What's the mood music around him now? Because, like, you know, it was a lot of the language obviously at the start of last season was, well, you know, we're not here to make up the numbers, we are absolutely going to try and win the title, and the things that you expect him to say, it starts to ring a little bit hollow when the evidence is, you know, which might not be all of his fault, of course, when the evidence is that that's not what's going to happen.
I think part of Damien's problem is he's got such high standards for himself, and he probably needs some investment to help him. I think structurally, Kenny said it, you go and watch Shells. They're really well prepared. I imagine every player knows the job walking onto that pitch. Training sessions will be excellent. Himself and Joey really worked at a high level, and as I said, I've seen Damien on the pro licence. Outstanding coach, absolutely outstanding.
What is it that's outstanding about him?
Like, you can't get to the level he got as a player without having a drive and a determination and a real understanding, and work with the great people he worked under. Like, he'd often use examples of Mourinho and different bits and pieces, but he'd then switch to Brendan Rodgers. And remember, he was a coach with Brendan Rodgers at Celtic, and Brendan probably gets a bit of a harsh sort of deal, but I think anyone that speaks or has worked under Brendan Rodgers, as players that have played from, would say a brilliant coach and a brilliant person to work under. So he's learned from outstanding people, and he's got real high standards. The challenge for Shelbourne is, can they give him a squad to go to the next level? It's not being disrespectful of the players he have, but they're probably short of one or two outstanding players that can elevate that team onto the next level. So it's been up and down, and because Damien sets standards and he's box office, it brings a lot of attention, and some of his comments are picked up on where other managers would probably get away with making the same comments, and that's creating a little bit of tension.
You can't beat him up for coming out. My ambition is to win the league title with this club. That's exactly what you want to hear. You know, we're too used to hear managers maybe talking it down, and I don't expect too much from, you know, the kind of low bar. I'd rather hear the opposite, to be honest with you. Yeah, I want to win the league title with this team, but nobody's...
I tell you what, I'm jealous of it. Imagine being able to... I never got the opportunity to say, yeah, I'm building a team for the next 2 or 3 years. Put the slippers on, huh? Wait for 2 or 3 years to build a team.
It's a rarity, isn't it?
You've got to have that. You've got to, like...
Yeah, you need time, and you need the backing. You're absolutely right. Realistically, you look at that team, you've seen them play as well, that Shelbourne team, you probably think, you know, you can tap into the potential of that team. It's a team that can compete maybe top 3, top 4. But yeah, absolutely, in terms of squad depth, he's obviously significantly short of mounting a challenge.
To the scouting app, I've noticed a distinct lack of chat about Jack Byrne for Ireland in the last little while. Anything you said about him? Or?
I think particularly in the game on Friday night, Graham Burke was the outstanding player on the pitch for the first sort of 45 minutes. Graham is finding his feet with fitness levels and different things, and he comes off a lot in games. Jack was quiet by his own standards, misplaced a couple of passes. I still say Jack Byrne and Patrick McElhenney are the 2 most gifted footballers in our league. But Jack's not reached that level yet, and that will be affecting Rovers' results at the moment. And you would imagine it's only a matter of time before he starts burning up again. But listen, if Jack doesn't do it, they're not short for options in terms of where they go.
The bench that came in last night sets them apart from everybody else.
Yeah, well, you look at Simon Power came on against Derry, and he's just got such pace, and he's someone picked up a lot of injuries. Really outstanding young talent he was. 21s. Neil Ferrugia, the 21s a couple of years ago, were real pace. Rovers probably don't play with wingers, so it doesn't suit the two of them a little bit, and they've got to find something there to get the very best out of them players. But look, the talent they have, like Gaffney hasn't started, Johnny Kenny started, was quiet against Derry, got an outstanding goal, but they've got like a choice between Johnny Kenny, Rory Gaffney, you know, Jack Bourne.
Kenny was a massive sign at the time. Yeah, you kind of rolled your eyes a little bit when I heard that sign. And thought, well, good luck. We know the quality he has that he showed at Sligo prior to going to Celtic. Liam Burt as well as a tidy little operator. You're talking about pace, power and Ferrugia. Burt's another little 10. He's a clever little operator on the inside. Rovers have plenty of them. So you look at the squad and you could argue it's a stronger squad than they had last year, but obviously just struggling to find their rhythm at the moment.
Couple of comments coming in here that I want to get to before we wrap. I see Owen Kenny has signed for Dundalk as well in the last 24 hours. 17-year-old played full international for under 17s for Northern Ireland and has trained with the 19s down here. Is that right?
Yeah, no, he hasn't played a full international for Northern Ireland.
I played the
training squad. He's been part of development, so got invited up and participated in that. But he's not.
Is that your way of saying?
Well, he can still play for Republic of Ireland,
and he will.
Well, I would hope so. Yeah. Owen is Owen's a really great kid. After when we played for Dundalk, because we obviously had the AstroTurf, he'd be out hammering balls off the crossbar until 1 o'clock in the morning while we were still finishing up and doing bits and pieces. So he knows the pitch quite well. So really talented young player. Been on a couple of trials as well, and it will be difficult. Being Stephen Kenny's son wouldn't be the easiest thing in the world, as in, you know, expectations, etc. So hopefully he can bubble away underneath, but it's great to see him getting his first professional contract.
What position? The old man was a clunky centre.
Yeah, he's the opposite to his dad. Thank God he's the opposite to his dad in every sense of the word. He's probably like, he scores some great goals, probably somewhere. Are you allowed to say 9.5? He's been a striker, or he can drop into the 10. Yeah, but good finisher, scored some really good goals. And not shy trying things, you know, in terms of bit of quality here and there.
Mean Street Posse shouldn't have let Ty Ryan go. Derry signed him for a reason. Great keeper. Mark Kennedy says Hartman last night was brilliant for Sligo. Genuine dangerous pace and skill. Peter M says Derry will walk the league. They'll be 7 or 8 points clear by June. Rovers are not good, and I have Cork City seen Cork City against both teams away. City were very unlucky to draw. City have a chance to be 6th or 7th. Slightly counter to your point, Vinny. And finally, Mark says Shells had a goal ruled out in injury time that was 2 yards onside as well. Played much better when they went behind.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with loads of that. The challenge for Cork will be, I think, without being disrespectful to UCD, I think UCD winning the playoff for last year against Waterford was a big relief for a couple of clubs, to be honest with you. It's like, because, you know, and I've spoken highly of UCD on this show, so I'm not afraid to say this part of it. Say, you know, UCD are probably going to be one of the bottom 2 clubs, so it's probably a relief. So all Cork have to do this year is finish 3rd from bottom and build from there. Now they'll want Colin Healy and all the staff in the club will want to finish her, but just be in the league for a couple of years solid. They'd have too many years of up and down, and just build slowly. Great crowds down there again. The Shed full, really good atmosphere, good pitch, good ground. So just 3rd last. I know they'll want more than that. 3rd last will be good enough. No playoff, no drama. Just survive and build from there.
Yeah, just because I say hitting a lot of positive vibes down there. The new ownership down there, speaking to 1 or 2 people. Yeah, a lot of good stuff. It's always a good thing when people are talking well about the new ownership. Got the right ideas, buy in. You know, looking medium to long term, developing younger players and looking to build, etc., etc. So. Yeah, augurs very well.
And developing young players, they're doing that good job at that at the same time, Kenny, which is important.
Yeah. Thanks a million.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. Vinny Perth joining us in studio to reflect on the League of Ireland. I'll catch up with Vinny again down the track. It is 9:21. You're watching OTB AM. Here's some of the highlights that will be available on the OTB podcast network over the course of the day. You'll be able to pick up the brilliant football pod. I'm obliged to say that, since Tommy standing by and ready to come on with his power rankings. The brilliant football pod, the equally, if not slightly better football, the Koi Gig pod, and then the absolutely brilliant Monday Night Rugby as well. Will be all available there for your delectation. You can follow OTB across our social channels. Subscribe as well to the OTB podcast network. After this short break, it is the aforementioned Tommy Rooney and his latest football power rankings.
You're listening
to OTB AM. OTB GAA.
Scale has opened a war, definitely, with the football pod. Where are your power rankings now?
Tommy, I welcome you back to the show in anticipation of the Royal Rumble that's coming our way. Hurling pod versus football pod.
Will, you're a coward. I had to go off and leave my pancakes on the pan.
This is awkward.
What are you doing?
Subscribe to the OTB GAA podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts.
The Heineken Champions Cup is back. Leinster take on Ulster in the round of 16, Saturday, April 1st at 5:30 in the Aviva Stadium. Join the Sea of Blue for this massive inter-provincial clash. Tickets on sale now at leinsterrugby.ie. Terms and conditions apply.
OTB AM with Gillette Labs. Get the ultimate shave or your money back. Neon Night Edition available now.
Some of these critics, these pundits.
Generally speaking, I'd be a fan of off the ball. Exactly, and like Tommy knows football, obviously I listen to football pod the odd time. And
when I was looking at the power rankings, and I thought that Jesus Owen must still be feeling the effects of these mushrooms.
But they just dismiss you like you know you have nothing to do with the bloody occasion.
Tommy Rooney, good morning to you.
Good morning, Adrian. Hi, Kenny. Hi, Shane.
How are you now?
What's happening?
I'm good. All good. How are things?
Very good form. We're so excited to have you on. We're just keeping you off screen for the second. And
I was going to say, there he is. I was going to say, where's his face?
Good,
oh no!
Good to see you, Ken.
Switch off again. Can we switch off again?
I always like the headphones. Yeah, the headphones make him look like a GAA commentator, which adds to.
Looking very pale. Tommy's looking very pale. Is that the background? Or is it just? It's just.
He's under the
weather. Under the weather, Kenny.
Yeah. Were you a sickly child, Tommy? Sickly child.
Under the weather, pal. And I still.
Oh, are you? Bless.
I hear we're under time pressure in
go for it.
Adrian Barry fashion. So let's get into this.
That's John Duggan talking. Just never shuts up, John.
So, couple of corrections on slide 4 here. London are down a spot. Carlow are up 1. Wexford are down 1. Even though they still have an outside shot of promotion, I'm not sure it's going to happen. Longford, bottom of Division 3 alongside Tip, are down to 28th. Wicklow have moved up 2. Oisin McConville's side are in the promotion hunt after huge wins against Laois and Leitrim. Leitrim has slid back a spot. They can still get promoted, but after back-to-back defeats, they need to beat first and second place Sligo and Laois next. For Tip, they're in 25th. The free fall continues. If people are looking closely at this now in the next slide, they'll ask why Laois have jumped up 2 spots, but there's a bit of a correction going on here. They are in pole position for promotion alongside Sligo, who, like Laois, are getting the job done. No changes to Antrim, who are in a bit of bother after a hammering to Westmeath at the weekend.
Antrim should have been dropped out of there.
And Fermanagh, but fear not, there'll be another power rankings before the end of the league, and we could be fixing the form and the issues that do lie with the power rankings. As I said before, I'm not calling myself to be infallible like Owen Sheehan or the Pope. Changes can be made here. Down, move back a bit. They fell short to Cavan, to be expected. Promotion is still doable, but Westmeath and Fermanagh are in pole position to join Cavan in that top spot. So Westmeath, Fermanagh meet next, and we'll see what they're all about then. Limerick got their first points of the league. They drew at Meath. They kicked 17 points. They possibly should have beaten them. The good and the bad for Meath on show once more. Very impressive in attack, very open in defence. But that point edges them up the table. I don't think they'll get a late surge, but maybe with Munster around the corner, there might be a bit of momentum. We'll see how Limerick get on, but they look guaranteed to go down on 1 point. Kildare in 17th. I am not sure what I can say about Kildare anymore. Louth delivered at the weekend. Kildare can still save themselves, so we'll see what happens, but just sliding back and back into 16th spot. Big moment for Louth. Another big win at the weekend. They are making progress, but it is from a low base. I think Louth have played 3 Leinster quarterfinals in the last 6 years. They've got smashed in all of them. Meath put 27 points by them. Dublin bet them by 18 points. Kildare bet them by 16 points. So Louth are coming from a low base, but there is progress going on here. The shape that Mickey Hart has them playing and their kick-out press is very, very good. Like last year, they relied on Samuel Roy. He went off injured at the weekend and has still got the job done. So their scorers stepping up for Louth across the pitch, and that is a big part to them progressing. I don't think they're second best in Leinster yet. You'll see why in a minute. Cavan 15th, Meath 14th, Westmeath are in 13th spot. I'm not sure they'll get much higher. And Clare have slipped back a spot to 12th. They're in a tough position at the minute. It's unfortunate, but it's a ruthless division, Division 2. They were poor in the second half against Cork last week after throwing away 6-point leads in back-to-back games. They're away to Derry next. Tough ask, but can they spoil the promotion party and give themselves a lifeline? In 11th position, James Donoghue's Cork. They are the top goal scorers across the division.
Creeping up.
Very impressed with them on Sunday, Adrian. Even without their, you could say, marquee man, Stephen Sherlock, there is loads of talent in Cork, and Cleary has them playing in a really, really good way. Sean Powter and Matty Taylor were key at the weekend. They scored 3 goals between them.
Tommy, I don't know where to jump in with my issues on this, so I'll just
I have one as well. You go first.
And one of them.
If you want to jump in now, jump in now. I
pay fairly close attention to Division 3. How Antrim have not fallen into the fourth slide there is the pummeling they got. Now, Westmeath just haven't been at the level. I'm almost surprised to see them in 13th, which is a slightly unusual thing for me to say.
Okay, can we
that I expect them to be at, because I thought that Cavan, I actually think Cavan are getting the bounce that I expected Westmeath to get from the Tailteann Cup last year, in that they're putting away again down. What a down slip one spot down or not? Down should have fallen a few more spots. Cavan for me.
Sorry, I'm a Monaghan man. This is very hard for me to say, Tommy, but Cavan should absolutely be higher.
Monaghan scored 2 frees in the entirety of the second half against 14-man Galway at the weekend and have held firm.
Oh well, rightly so. Number 9 is
hey, they should have fallen.
No.
Hold your horses.
They still have 4 points.
In that, Tommy. Pick it up wherever you want.
Right. Shane, I'll come back to you. Adrian, you haven't been on the power rankings. This is the 4th version this year. I've explained numerous times already why Westmeath started at such a high spot. They are sliding back. There was a bit of correction going on here, but they started in 12th position this year after their Tailteann Cup exploits. Cavan, unless they get to the Ulster final, are not competing for the Sam Maguire. I don't see them going any higher.
Cavan at the minute are ahead of Westmeath.
Even if they win Division
3. I actually agree with you.
They are. Like, all evidence, and it kills me to say it, but all evidence.
But hold on.
They're definitely ahead of Meath. Meath drew with Limerick. They conceded 17 points. That is a disaster.
Division 3 and Division 2.
I know, but I'm just saying.
Cavan have beaten all in front of them.
You're saying why Antrim aren't on the 4th side yet. Antrim lost 2 games in injury time to fluky goals. They got absolutely tanked at the weekend, and they have a huge job in their hands.
If Antrim aren't slipping back after taking a pummeling like that against a team that clearly aren't in the conversation or anywhere near it.
Like, Tommy, you grew up a kick at the ball from King's Court. You have a lot of Cavan friends, I'd imagine. You could be in trouble here.
Shane, that's your problem. This has nothing to do with friendship.
No, I know,
this has nothing to do with
they've beaten every
looking
team in
after
front of them.
people that I know. It's nothing to do with slipping fivers into the back pocket. This is the power rankings. I've taken over from Owen Sheehan. It's a very, very important slot.
2 quick comments.
Cavan lads wouldn't be slipping fivers into your pocket.
We haven't got to the point of slide yet.
Yeah, 2 quick. So give me these 2 quick comments that summarise all this stuff better than we have. Shane, not this one, says Cavan will beat any of the teams ranked 9 to 16. We should be higher. And Jack Cosgrove says Westmeath ahead of Cavan is mind blowing. Tommy Rooney is afraid of Cavan.
Cavan can whinge all they want. Okay, Cavan won Ulster in 2020. Fair play to you, you've got the job done. You slid back to Division 4. They are improving and correcting what went wrong
Massively
in 2021. Massively improving, Shane. They're in Division 3.
Yeah, but they're going to be in Division 2.
They're without question. They're up.
Sure, and I have them in 15th place. I have them in 15th, and they may go up again. But, like, what do you want me to do here? I can't put them
above Westmeath. That's what I want.
Above Westmeath won the Tailteann Cup last year. They bet them in the championship final.
But you need to get with 2023, Tommy. And it kills me to make this argument, but I think you've got that wrong.
Well,
bring
Adrian,
us into slide 1.
Forgive me for just cutting across you here. This is your first time on the power rankings. I have been on the power rankings 4 times so far this year. Where were you before this?
Show me your medals. Get dust off your medals. I hear you, Tom.
Yeah.
Bring us into slide 1 here. Come on.
Slide 1. Tyrone haven't moved after that Hartnell win at the weekend. They can complain all they want. They can thank Paddy Andrews. The rumours were that the football pod was bleared around the speakers and all before the game. We need to see a bit more from Tyrone, but good signs at the weekend. Roscommon in 7th. Shadow boxing at the weekend, so I'm not moving that game with Mayo. Armagh 6th. Derry are 5th, even though they had that great win against Dublin. But it's very tight up here. Just a lot has to go for changes to be made. Dublin have slipped back 1 to 4th place. I can see the scowl on Kenny Cunningham's face. But Kenny, I'm going to lay it out to you this way. Paddy Andrews put it best. Indiscipline. No plan B.
That's the dubs for you.
No evidence of evolution in the last 5 years. No real depth beyond their best 15. I'm not ruling out Dublin pulling this out because they probably have the strongest 15 on paper alongside Kerry. But beyond that, they're struggling, and that's why they've slid back to 4th place. They lost the game at the weekend, and in previous years they would have pulled out of the bag and won. 3rd place, Mayo. 2 words, choo-choo. Get on the hype train.
Here we go.
There you go. Galway in second, Kerry in first.
Yeah.
Or can Mayo win the All-Ireland this year, Tommy? Genuinely.
Obviously.
Why is it obvious?
Because they're one of the best teams in the country.
Will they? Ask them, will they win it?
They always let you down, though. Will they?
Will they win it?
That's a good question, Kenny. Will they win it?
Good choice.
Give us a little slide.
That's why you should have been pundit of the year. Pundit of the year in my books.
Will they win it? Like it's a very good question. The way I put it to you is every team, I would say every team, and I'm sorry, Roscommon people, bar Roscommon can probably win the All-Ireland this year. That's possibly harsh in this first slide.
Very harsh.
I don't think Tyrone are doing it. I'm going to rephrase.
It's a bit of a weak answer, Tommy. Got to be honest with you.
I don't think Armagh are going to do it. This is my answer, Kenny, right? Derry, Dublin, Mayo, Galway, Kerry. 4 semi-finalists last year. Mayo have been perennial finalists and semi-finalists over the last couple of years. They can all win the All-Ireland this year.
Oh, jeez.
But they all have.
We know they can,
They
Tommy.
all
That's
have
not the
fatal
question.
flaws. Kenny, they all have fatal flaws, and that's the thing. Mayo, to me, look like they're cleaning up those flaws, which is their attack. So I would give Mayo as good as chances I've ever given.
Mayo, Tommy.
I think. Look, the Mayo stuff has absolutely, totally blown me asunder because I didn't expect them to be at all where they're at. I had them totally written off, and I think Tommy's right. The one slight surprise, like Tyrone, there was common Tyrone thing. If we can look at slide 1 again, I would have probably edged on the basis of both the results of the weekend. And Tyrone, like, look, you can sort of say it's a one-off result, fair enough. And I know you're taking the long game approach here, which I don't mind saying was not your predecessor's approach. He'd be as flighty as could be, and like any opportunity to make a few tweaks, he'd go for it. But like backs against the wall the weekend, and relatively impressive, obviously, with getting the job done. Desperately needing to get the job done. And got it done. Yeah, but like maybe that's the biggest pointer to what might happen in the championship versus Roscommon, who granted they came with a late surge, could have drawn the game late on. But
Adrian, this can't all be done on a whim. It's not all done on science and
stats. To be honest with you, it
stats.
feels like it has been done on a whim. You've nailed it.
You're waiting for Tyrone. Tyrone have a short trip to Clonus next, and if they lose that, they're probably going to be relegated. And if they win it, they'll be safe. So you're probably holding off, Tommy, are you? I'm trying to back you up here.
Like Shane, there's an element to that. There's big games ahead. There's a lot yet to happen. I watched Tyrone on Saturday night. A lot of this is to do with what you see in front of you, the feeling you get from a county. Like Roscommon made 5 changes the weekend. Mayo made 6 changes. I'm not reading much into that game. That is why that game is not being brought too much into contention here. They're meeting in Connacht in 5 weeks' time. Tyrone bet Kerry. Kerry want to finish mid-table in the league. We've heard them say it numerous times. I'm not too worried about Kerry's performances at the minute. Let Tyrone back it up. Let themselves get themselves safe. And then we'll see how to get on in Ulster. There's a lot to happen yet, lads. It's going to be a relentless calendar over the next 3 or 4 months. So get ready for a couple of more power rankings.
Where were Armagh were in 6th. Yeah. That's about right, I'd say.
Yeah, I probably had Armagh a little higher. I had them 4th early on. I got a lot of stick for that, but I did think that Armagh were going to back up the league performance we saw last year. That the bit of rock and roll football. I'm not saying they can't get to that position, but maybe they're biding their time to get there.
I think you need to get more trigger happy, Tommy. I'm not going to lie to you. Anthony Moyles has been in touch. He says, keep them Westmeath and Cavan lads down, Tommy. Don't mind Adrian. Should be lower if you ask me.
Yeah. I think Moyles has got a point. Like, the biggest thing to come out of Westmeath and Cavan, and I'd put loud in this bracket now, is complaints.
What do you mean?
Complaints.
What are you talking about?
All they do is complain.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, I'm actually batting on behalf of Cavan here, which is a ludicrous position to be in.
But they're in Division 3.
Suggests.
Sorry, Tommy, the biggest thing coming out of Cavan.
You can only bet what's in front of you, Tommy, and they're doing that with bells on.
This is the power rankings, right? It is where each county are in terms of the All-Ireland series. It is where each county
Cavan tomorrow would beat Westmeath, in my view.
Cavan can't win the All-Ireland unless they get to the Ulster final.
But whatever about winning the All-Ireland, because if you're talking about winning the All-Ireland, there's you need forget about like ranking 6 down.
But
I'm just saying
they're not going to be in the competition unless they get to the Ulster final, and at the minute that looks like a very tough ask. I'm not saying Cavan can't get there. They're in 15th position. I think it's fair for a team that are top of Division 3.
The biggest thing coming out of Cavan is Paddy Lynch, Tommy. 2-5 at the weekend. It's not complaints.
Oh, he doesn't want to hear it, Shane. He doesn't want to hear it. It's too much logic.
I talked Lynch up plenty last year. Give him loads of credit. I think he's a superb footballer.
Danny Mack says Meath 14th. Nepotism at its best. Come on, Danny Mack. Richie, I mean, Cavan are probably a mid-level Division 2 team next year, so somewhere from 10 to 14 at best.
Probably next year. I look forward to the power rankings next year when no one takes them over.
The Westmeath thing is based solely off winning the Tailteann Cup last year. It's been wrong since the first power rankings.
So,
and Shane
hold on a second. Now, hold on a second, right? Westmeath won a championship. Something has to be said about that. They won a championship. They got a team holiday. They performed in Croke Park. They have footballers all across the park. There's plenty of footballers in that team that have been in Leinster semi-finals and Leinster finals. Sure, they haven't won it, but there's silverware in that dressing room. They've won a couple of league titles as well. Well, maybe not a couple. They've won one or two back in the day.
When we've reached a position where you're arguing for Westmeath and I've argued against them, it's time to wrap.
I just think there's a bit of a debate at the minute about the second best team in Leinster, as if that's something to be proud of. Kildare, Meath need to get their acts together. They haven't got it together yet. It's between Wesley, Meath and Louth for me at the minute. Louth are coming from such a low base that I couldn't have Louth ahead of Westmeath, who have won a championship.
You should. Louth are the best. Louth are the second best team in Leinster at the moment.
Tommy, I look forward to the...
Jane, I'd love to hear you back that up.
I look forward to the update next week.
Mickey Hart.
Talk to you later today. We'll be friends later on.
You've played the blinder, Tommy. You played the blinder today.
Thanks, Kendo. Well done this morning. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
thanks, Adrian.
And you, Tommy. Hope to see you soon.
Good work.
Thanks.
Get back into the studio quick.
Boys. Fair play.
Come on. Hugely enjoyed our last few hours. Thanks, Vinny, for coming in.
Yeah,
it's always an absolute pleasure. These things sometimes go unsaid. You take the comments facetiously, which is not the way they're intended, but I have thoroughly enjoyed the last two and a bit hours.
We're all sick of each other's company, so it wakes us up a bit, you know.
Oh yeah.
Thanks, Millie, for coming in.
Pleasure.
Cheers.
Thoroughly enjoyed that. Shane, come on.
Great stuff.
I've enjoyed you just as much.
There you go. Almost. Yeah.
We'll talk to you on Friday. It's coming up on 22:10 on tomorrow's show. Jasmine Baba, Sean O'Brien, Derek McNamara, plenty more as well. Shane is going to be hosting alongside Johnny Ward. Brought to you every morning, of course, with Gillette Labs. The ultimate, get the ultimate shave or your money back. Neon Night edition is available now. Right now, we're going to have the rest of that Tom English chat with Joe on last night's show. Have a gorgeous day.
Ireland go to Murrayfield, as has been well flagged, and then England in Dublin. To tell us more about the mood in Scotland, Tom English of the BBC is with us. Good evening.
Good evening, Joe.
So, this is an interesting game and was flagged at the beginning of the championship as an interesting game for Ireland. Gregor Townsend said of the defeat in Paris that it was Scotland's best performance of the championship, and when you consider wins at Twickenham, then at home to Wales, with Ireland and Italy to go for Scotland, they are on the precipice of what could be an exceptional Six Nations, or it could flatter to deceive a touch.
It all depends on what happens on Sunday, doesn't it? They have a chance against Ireland. If they were to beat Ireland and then beat Italy, then that's 4 wins, and they've never managed 4 wins in the Six Nations before. So that would be extraordinary. A lot of work to do before then for them. I don't think, although you'll find a lot of Scottish rugby fans who are loving what they're seeing from the Scotland team, I think you'd have to search long and hard to find someone who believes that they will win. Everyone thinks that they can win on Sunday, Scotland. You won't find too many people, I think, here who believe that they will win. But they're loving what they're seeing. The team is playing really, really exciting rugby. And I think everyone at 19-0 down after 19 minutes in Paris, I think everyone's saying, okay, this is when the fun stops. 2 wins out of 2. First time since 1996. 19-0 down now. This is Armageddon. And yet, 50 minutes later, it's 25-21. So that 50 minutes in Paris, Scotland won it 21-6. And we're completely on top. And actually, they scored 3 tries in the day. They had really, really good chances to score another 3. So if you're trying to draw positives from a defeat, there were plenty for Scotland in Paris.
We will come to Finn Russell in due course, so I'm taking his name off the table for a moment. What's been going so well for Scotland of late?
I think they have found carriers, not found them, but they're certainly the carriers up front have stepped up. I'm talking Schumann here, George Turner, Xander Fagerson has made a difference. Richie Gray, a guy, the forgotten man. A lot of people thought he was finished on the international stage. He's come back in and given the line out a real solidity. Matt Fagerson, carrier. Jamie Ritchie developing as a leader, as the captain of the team. good on the ground, good turnover specialist. That's one function of the team. The midfield has been a revelation. Jones and Tuipulotu, absolutely deadly. Working in tandem with Russell, of course, but the two of them have been. They've taken a bit of the creative. I know we're going to talk about Russell later on, but they've taken a bit of the creative burden off Russell, and they've actually asked questions of opposing defences. So it's not just about Russell anymore. It's about the two guys in the midfield, and it's about this wrecking ball out wide, Duhan van der Merwe. So the Scottish threats are all over the place now, and they look after ball pretty well. So a lot of things have come together to build an entertaining team. That still has a long way to go, but and there's the squad depth as well. The guys coming off the bench are much better than they have been in the last 20 years, I would say.
Yeah, I have seen the Tuipulotu Jones centre pairing described as good as any in the professional era, Scotland.
Yeah, yeah. I think the 1999 team under Jim Telfer, midfield there was very good, but certainly in the history of the Six Nations, Scotland haven't had a midfield partnership like this. And Tuipulotu, like he's a bludgeon and he's a rapier. He's a very accomplished footballer, and his form has been sensational. Really, he's created a number of tries. He can do it all, and I don't think we've necessarily seen the best of him in terms of his line breaks and all that. He hasn't done a lot of that. A lot of it has been quite subtle, little touches, little grubber through in Twickenham for a try for Jones, assists here and there, linking the play brilliantly. I speaking to Gregor Townsend I bumped into him last week, and he feels there's a kind of big performance in terms of line breaks coming for Tuipulotu to round off all the other stuff that he's doing. He doesn't know if it's going to be against Ireland, but this guy has made a huge difference. Bear in mind that leading into the Ireland game last year, Tuipulotu was dropped from the squad for Dublin because he was one of the 6 that went out drinking the weekend before. So he's come a long way, just like Scotland have come a long way, I believe.
Yes. And one other point about Scotland is that it was noticeable against this behemoth French pack that they stood up to them and potentially got on top of them for a fair portion of that game in Paris. It would often be said that an Irish pack could maybe outmuscle is too blunt a way of putting it, but outmuscle a Scottish pack. And that would stick in the mind because we don't say that about many Irish packs. Is there a bit more fight, bulk, meat in that Scottish pack this time around, Tom?
Yeah, I think there is. Certainly in the front row. I mean, that's a big, heavy front row, and it's a mobile front row, pretty dynamic. I think maybe in the last 10 minutes, in Paris, Scotland got out muscled. Certainly the last 5 minutes, they got out muscled, and that was eventually that's why the losing bonus point got away from them. Just before that, about 75-minute mark, they were still 4 points down. They had a line out around halfway, and they coughed up the line out. Now, had that ball gone to hand, I think they would definitely have got a losing bonus point, and they may even have won the game. Because the thing about this Scotland team, yes, they seem more physically robust, but they're dangerous anywhere. So from halfway on the front foot in Paris, you'd be thinking Russell might come up with something here. Tuipulotu, Jones, Van der Merwe, give him the ball and anything can happen.
Yeah.
So I think they certainly feel that was the one that got away. But they are, like Ireland, I think Ireland, the ultimate test, obviously the ultimate test for everyone now, of Scotland's creativity. Can they break down Scotland's defence the way they broke down France and Wales and England? And physically, can they live with Ireland the way they lived with France and bettered them for a large part, and certainly dominated Wales and held their own against England physically.
So that's the on the pitch picture. As ever with Scotland, the most interesting stuff is behind the scenes and off the pitch. And that's where I really want to lean into your sense of what's going on and your expertise. So you mentioned, for instance, Tuipulotu is one of those 6 players who goes out and then doesn't play in Dublin. And I would say at that stage, looking in from afar, the general refrain of Irish rugby pundits when it came to Scotland was, these are jokers. They don't have discipline. There's something culturally rotten. They win a game and it's champagne out, look at us, and then they're flaky. That would be the very ungenerous version of events. So I'm curious what's happened over the last year, and in particular, I'm looking at, for instance, Finn Russell dropped from the November squad. Now, it's worked out beautifully here for Townsend because he got to drop him and also keep him the way injuries fell. But Russell dropped and captaincy taken off Hogg. Two of the players who perhaps led the charge on that night out and were setting a certain example as senior players. So I'm guessing here, and you can fill in the blanks, has there been like these two leading senior players have been disempowered somehow, and the younger generation are now setting the standards and leading by example, and Russell and Hogg are more part of the scene as opposed to leading the way?
No, I wouldn't say they have been. There are lesser forces in the squad. I wouldn't say that at all. I think they've probably grown up a bit. Certainly Russell, he's become a father now. He's a dad now. And I would give Townsend an awful lot of credit here, because there's been numerous eruptions between the two of them since 2020. As you said, the most recent one was November, when Townsend, he picked 3 10s in his 37 or 39 man squad, and Russell wasn't one of them. He picked Ross Thompson of Glasgow, who played half an hour to that point. That's this season, and said that he had more form and consistency than Russell had, who was playing quite well at the time for Racing, then subsequently played extremely well for Racing. So that was just not tenable, right?
Yeah.
And that blew up in Townsend's face. And I remember having a couple of post-match after the first couple of November internationals in Murrayfield, having a few testy exchanges with Townsend post-match about where's Russell when you're bringing him in. And Adam Hastings got injured in the second one of the November internationals, so he obviously needed a 10 for the third one, which was New Zealand. And Townsend said, Russell is among the ones we will consider. And we're going, hang on, what do you mean among the ones? So, looking at that, I was thinking, I'm not sure there's a way back here.
And what do you think was going on there? What Gregor Townsend in his private moments, if he was asked, what's the number one reason you've been this guy from the squad? What do you think that is?
Russell did not play well in the Six Nations in 2022. It did not play well at all. And I think the communication between the two of them hasn't been great. It's a million times better. It's a world away from what it was. I just think he didn't maybe trust him. Maybe he thought that Russell was trying to kind of dominate the environment in terms of game plan, in terms of my way or the highway, Gregor. Maybe Townsend felt a bit challenged by him within the team environment. There'll be elements of truth about all of that, because the one thing that's not true is it was the stated reason that he was effectively the fourth best out half in Scotland. I mean, it's just ridiculous, right? So everyone was searching for reasons, and that's what kind of we alighted on, that, okay, the relationship, it's hit a bad place again. And this is the third, maybe the fourth kind of moment of turbulence between them. And I was thinking, I'm not sure there's coming back from this. Yeah. But they have, and it's to both of their credit. Finn, when he came out and after the first one in 2020, he did an interview in a newspaper and he eviscerated Townsend. He absolutely lambasted him. And at that point, we're thinking, wow, Townsend is going to have to, if he takes this on the chin, he's done well. And he did take it on the chin, soaked it up, changed his ways a little bit. Then there was another one. Then there was another one. And somehow they've managed to get to a place where when they talk about each other, they're like the Chuckle Brothers now. I mean, it's incredible, really. They found this place where Townsend can have his input, and he's had much more of an input on Scotland's attack this season than he did last season. But within that, and Townsend has been accused of being a bit of a control freak. I think he stepped back from that, and he's allowed Russell his place more. But Russell has also maybe not been as my way or the highway. So somehow, by accident or by design, they've found a happy medium.
So interesting. Touch of good fortune about it that the injuries happened when they happened, and Townsend effectively had to bring him back in. Because one, you get him back in, and he's obviously their best out half. But two, Russell knows that Townsend was serious.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Russell wants to play in another World Cup. The last World Cup was a nightmare for Scotland. He desperately wants to play for Scotland. And even when people were saying this relationship is not going to work out, there was always the hope that carrot of a World Cup, Six Nations, winning more caps, was going to bring him back to the fold, and it has. And sure enough, when he comes back in against New Zealand, he was immense, absolutely immense.
Yeah.
And since then, the relationship has been excellent. Russell's form has been good. Reading some of the stuff from the English papers on the England-Scotland game, I thought, and actually some people within the Scotland squad thought that he was getting 9 out of 10 and 10 out of 10 in the old match ratings. Actually, Russell played really well for about 10 or 15 minutes overall in that game. Second half against Wales, unbelievable. And pretty much for most of it against France. I mean, it was Russell who led the comeback. He was outstanding. One of his best performances for Scotland was that France performance.
One of the reasons I use the word disempowered talking about Russell and Hogg, and I do take your more nuanced version of events, it's not simply that, but the reason I was thinking that has been the captaincy. So Hogg was the captain 2020 to 22.
Yeah.
He would often talk up the potential of this Scottish team in a big way. At times his performances were then lacking, and then he was part of that group that went out. And Jamie Ritchie, age 26, the new breed, is made captain. And again, Gregor Townsend, in the grand tradition of, well, we can't believe a word you're saying to us publicly, he said this was to relieve the burden on Stuart Hogg. Stuart Hogg did not see it that way. He saw this very much as downgrading of his status. He was not happy. So Hogg and the captaincy, what's your sense of what's happened there?
I think after the Ireland game in Dublin last year, when the drinking stuff had come out, there was a press conference afterwards at the Aviva, and Hogg was truculent, kind of evasive, hugely uncomfortable. And I think there was always a sense that after that he was going to lose the captaincy. He was not going to go to Argentina for the summer tour. And maybe that was the time to shake things up a little bit. I think it was a good decision to take it off him. He hadn't been playing great. I think he loved being the captain and campaigned to be the captain. And you could say maybe that was a bit of ego, maybe a lot of ego. But he was a senior player. There weren't too many contenders. And he got it. He wanted it and he got it. And I think it was time to take it off him. I'm not sure if it was. I'm sure it would have been painful for him, but also maybe an element of relief too.
Right.
Because I think the whole captaincy thing, while it agreed with him for a while, when things started to get tough, he kind of took it a bit personally. And he's very, very proud, and we can take the mickey out of him. And I know a lot of people in Ireland take the mickey out of him, but he's incredibly, incredibly proud player. And when he was frustrated, you could see it. I mean, you could see his emotions are written all over his face, So I think since they took the captaincy off him, I think he's played solidly for Scotland. I still think there's more in him. But I think it was a good decision for Townsend because you need to move on. Richie is younger. Richie is a kind of hard edge. Doesn't give a toss about his image. He's a nice guy, but you're never going to see him in society magazines, you know. He's just that no nonsense kind of old school rugby player. He's as close as, I'm not saying he's in the same league, but I think he's got potential. But he's kind of like that Peter O'Mahony type, you know, tough as old boots, uncompromising, stick his head into anything, will to win through the roof. And I think that's what Townsend wanted to get to. And I think it's actually been a relief for Hogg. He's going to win his 100th cap at the weekend. I think it's probably a sore one for him to lose it, but probably a blessing in disguise.
Okay. And in fairness, not everyone can hold court in society magazines like yourself, Tom. So that's...
well, Joe, I think, you know, you have a bit of that in you yourself. You know what I mean? Good looking fella like yourself.
Oh, I'm fraying around the edges. And that's not to say I agree with your initial...
But listen, the whole Hogg thing, right? And the whole Scotland thing. And this came up again last week. It's like, what is it about some people in Ireland that constantly accuse Scotland of being uppity and arrogant when they're not?
Do you know,
I'm living here for 18 years. I can promise you they're the most pessimistic group of rugby fans you will find anywhere.
That's interesting. It's more actually... So this blew up a touch in my world last week when Andy Dunn was on.
Yes, it was Andy's comment, yeah.
Andy reckoned that...
OTB AM with Gillette Labs. Get the ultimate shave or your money back. Neon Night Edition available now.